creativity.
Million shirts sold.
Bulk orders.
Deals every day.
Free designs for schools.
I love screen printing.
Deals every day.
Orders for everybody.
Million shirts sold.
Deals every day.
Buy one, get one free.
I love working
Deals
here at
every
T-shirt
day.
King.
Schools, businesses, and sports teams.
Yes.
Deals every day.
Mega stars like Kanye West.
Deals every day.
I got the best team in the world. Creative artists.
Deals every day.
Angelina has the perfect mix of experience and temperament to serve as a judge in the Common Pleas Court.
She's someone that's for all people, and that's what we need.
I think Angelina would be a great judge because she has the temperament, she has the experience, and she loves this community.
She is very experienced. She has a variety of background experiences that I believe really allow her to be not just an attorney, but a true advocate. That's something that the system is desperately missing.
When I think about the Common Pleas Court and its role in my children's future, that court has an opportunity to pursue justice.
And that's why it's really, really important to have judges who represent the diversity of the community.
Make the right choice. Vote for Angelina Jackson for judge.
Yo, what's good, y'all? Thank you all for all tuning in, man. We love y'all, man. Please make sure you guys head over to our YouTube channel. Show some love on the Legendary People podcast, also Dash Resource, man. We got some really, really dope videos on there as well, man. Y'all just seen Angelina Jackson. She came back through, you know what I'm saying, to show her love and show her support and show her her resilience, man, and how much she wants you guys to get out there and vote, man. It's so important, man. And she is literally saying, choose between the two different pills, right? Red pill or blue pill, right? You got a person that was a public defender that's been there defending clients, and now she's going to step on the other side to be a person that sat on both sides of it, because someone who is, you know, on both sides of the fence, a more level-headed person than someone than the other pill, you know what I'm saying? Person that's backed by the police, right? FOP endorsed, right? I'm just letting you guys know that that was the two options that she that she presented, right? You also had Brandon McClain, who came on the podcast. Very, very brilliant brother, man. Historical black figure when it comes to Dayton, Ohio history. He's the second black Montgomery County recorder, okay? His interview was amazing to find out. He's not even from Dayton, man. He literally come here, and like I said before, he is a Dayton legend, okay? He has honorary status in Dayton history, man. So go over to our YouTube channel and check some of that out, man. We like to always say what's up to Horizon Science Academy. You ain't cool if you don't go to that school. Shout out to Angelina Jackson. Y'all know who we voting for. You know what I'm saying? Angelina Jackson. Shout out to Kiara Wine. Sheiks for breakfast. Breakfast. Agnes All Natural Grill. If you ever get injured in an accident, please contact attorney Michael Wright. Dash Resource. We ain't here to talk about none of this, man. Shout out to Goofy and Mal. Shout out to T-Shirt Kings. But we here, man, to get to something that's way more important, like my mother calling me. Mom, I'm on the air right now. Mama. My mama done pocket down me. All right, cool. So anyway, take a point away from my mama, y'all. We all know the game we play, right? Take a point away from my mama. All the viewers, right? So, man, like I said before, there's no legend higher, man, and this is one of the special ones for me, man. I was super excited, man, to get my bro on here, man. So, without further ado, man, we got my brother KÉMO in the building. Don't call me KÉMO. No, it's KÉMO in the building.
Thanks, brother.
What's good, King? What's good, man? So, let's break the ice a little bit, man. Let's talk about Kanye West. Yay. Right? Respectfully. Absolutely. What is your take on what's going on with Ye, his position, and your position? Pause if necessary.
No doubt. I've been vocal personally, even privately vocal about it. I, didn't need to try to create another platform to create, the means for people to really have a discourse about it. For me, it's just evident in practice, statements that he said in regards to us choosing slavery. I was in complete agreement with that at the time he said it. Everything that he was saying at the time, what he's saying about this MAGA piece and Trump, etc. I would never myself align and use it as strategy and publicly go out and do something like that myself, but I'm not denouncing strategy. Same when Cube asked the question, and people have laughed at Cube the whole way. They laughed when he left NWA. They laughed when, he started doing movies. They laughed when he started doing Disney movies. They laughed when, he talked about the sports league. And I have one of my closest friends who's been vocal and one of those, typical people who feel, just like Kanye is crazy. Cube is tripping. The whole 3-on-3 thing is dumb. It's never going to work. And it's just like, but at what point do we not try to draw the line in the sand? That's what all these people are saying. All these brothers are really just telling us at some point we have to make an effort. It can be as corny as you wanted to say it is, but the NBA was corny when it first started out. The way basketball was played was corny. It's nothing like it was today when it first started out. It evolved into this. And so something has to be started in order for it to evolve into something that people are proud to say that they were a part of. But it's like that's the struggle of the entrepreneur or the person who has that business or investor mindset. And it's going to sound like craziness or like greediness or, just callousness or, just a number of different things. Negative is going to be negatively perceived and received when people who have that mindset say the things that they say in order for that have given them the means to live the lives that they live and create the things they create. And it's as you're more in that lifestyle, you start to understand more coming from one mindset to the other. Like, oh, I understand why people get to the point where they only deal with certain people in this capacity. It's not that they only want to deal with white people.
Right.
It's that they find it hard to find other black people they can connect with that have that mindset in that evolutionary capacity. That even if it's focused on us, it's not going to sound like the same type of approach that has been taken traditionally by the masses. It's going to sound crazy. And there's no room for that.
So, like, how do you feel about, people who turn their back on Kanye West? Let's make it real, right? Dayton, Ohio, right? We experienced one of the worst tragedies, mass shootings that happened. Dave Chappelle came down here. He brought Kanye West. They did Sunday service down there. It was a healing moment for our city.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So how do people turn their back on Kanye West from the city? Let's start there. From the city when he's done something to help us heal.
Absolutely. I think it's just, short-sighted and it's more of a follower capacity because, I have a brother who is working with me on the graphic design side for a lot of the work I'm doing with Trep and Design to Build. And we were having a conversation last week when I was down, I was in Orlando for the speaking engagement that I was at for the Blacks in Technology Conference. And we were just talking about the project, him redesigning my pitch deck and all this stuff for DTB. And somehow that topic came up and he said something to the effect of Kanye West is tripping, man. Those statements that he's making, the anti-Semitic statements. And I was like, what did he say that was anti-Semitic? I'm like, all he said was that he'd rather that we operate in the same fashion because they stick together. And they own everything and they control everything and they have this power that he wishes we had over our own creative, and intellectual property. I'm like, how is that anti-Semitic? He's like, well, I didn't see the interview. I'm just kind of going on what I kind of heard. And I'm like, oh, so you're admitting that. But here's what I appreciated about dude. I was like, well, the fact of the matter is that most of the record labels that most of us have ever rapped or sung at have been owned by Jewish people. He was like, really? And I was like, bro, look it up. And he started Googling right there in the middle of us talking. It was like, oh my God, Capitol Records, Def Jam. He was like, bro, what? He was like, I never knew that. This is a black dude. He's like, I never knew all these record labels basically were owned by Jewish people. He's like, now I got to do my research, man. My bad, bro. I should have, did my research before I spoke. I'm like, but see, I can respect that because you humbled yourself and was like, you know what, bro? I didn't listen to the interview for real. But I'm going to go back and listen to that, what he said, and then do the research because I'm looking right now. My research is I just looked up 7 or 8 of them and they are owned by Jewish people. Right. And I'm like, he was like in the sub, record labels like Rockefeller, etc. They exist underneath these record labels that were owned by Jewish people. Right. So it was all under the guise with this brand ambassadorship, we'll make it look like it's yours so people are more inclined to support it. That's been the way, that's been the Jewish black dynamic. And I've had people like, oh, the Jewish people have always, there's been some that supported black people. I'm like, but it's always been
a owner to tenant relationship.
Absolutely. We don't want to see you just, down and out, but we still own you and own everything we're doing. But we're going to do what we can to extend grace, but we still got to protect ourselves and make it work for us. I don't know if you saw the interview with Leora Cohen.
Oh yeah,
with the Breakfast Club and what he said, and I'm like, that's what they believe, and people they're not talking about
Charlamagne asked him about him
promoting the death culture and lean and all that, and it's like, well, I got family to feed, I got kids, and he's like, whoa, Dame's gonna call you a culture vulture. It's like, who is Dame Dash? Like,
right.
Like basically, who is
and
he?
that's disrespectful to somebody who's done so much for the culture, right? And if you say that, then like, to me, let's think about the world reverse. Like, what if we was pimping Jewish culture?
Absolutely.
What if we had dreidel chains and like think on the grand scheme, like
real.
we out here like we throwing bar mitzvah parties where all of the of those sections of people would show up and we were the owners of it. We're just reaping the benefits of it.
Absolutely.
How would the world view us?
Absolutely.
If we were doing that?
Well, if we maintained and controlled how the media portrayed it, then they would view us in the same positive light. And that's what Kanye is saying, is that we have fallen for the propaganda. I was like debating with my one homeboy. I was talking about one of my closest friends, and I told him, like, do you know who who's considered the father of propaganda is? And he was like, no. I'm like, Edward Bernays. Guess what nationality that Edward Bernays was? Jewish.
Right. Guess who
his mother's brother was? I think his mother's brother was Sigmund Freud.
Oh wow.
He's considered the nephew of Sigmund Freud is considered the father of propaganda. It's a book that he wrote. I can't remember the title of the book, but if you look up Edward Bernays, he is literally considered the father of propaganda. And I sent bro a screenshot from Wikipedia from Vienna, Jewish heritage. Like, this is reality. Like, they literally have controlled even the way psychology is set up. A lot of that has come out of Austria. Carl Jung, Sigmund Freud, like, that's all truth. I'm like, so even the way that we operate from from psychology as a science, or like, a category, an industry, its foundations are from this idea of understanding people through this lens.
Right.
From this cultural group. I'm like, and these aren't things that are anti-Semitic. These are facts.
Facts.
I didn't make a comment and say that Jewish people are this or that. I'm simply stating this is what is happening.
Exactly.
And because of that, they control the media. They control Hollywood. They decide what gets depicted and doesn't get depicted, not just for themselves, but for everybody. Because they've been controlling the game since they started getting into the whole idea of propaganda being a science.
Right.
Propaganda is a science.
It is.
And the people, and they use it in that book. He talks about how you can use it to get your own citizens in your own country all the way on board with the agenda. That's what patriotism is.
For sure. So, man, bro, let's get to some of your story, man. Here on the Legendary People podcast, we had this thing called Origins, man. Without further ado, where'd you grow up, man?
Man, I grew up in Dayton, Ohio.
Ohio, okay.
Main part that I lived in was right there. People say it's not Five Oaks. People like, nowadays. I've always said it was Five Oaks. Right there at the corner of Parkwood and Mayfair, right off Fairview.
That's Oaks enough.
That's what I'm saying. It's Oaks. Shoes. Oak. I'm like, y'all act like it was Oakwood or something.
Right,
I'm like, nah,
right.
It was the Oaks.
Yeah. If I could throw if I could throw football to where the Oaks is, then I'm in the Oaks. You can't throw football there to Westwood, so
exactly
you're in the Oaks, right?
And I went to, Colonel White for high school. I went to Fairport for
Wait. You can't be going too fast through this part of the story.
Right.
Right.
Down.
We gotta slow cook this thing, right?
Yep.
So walk us through like the home dynamic. Like, how'd you grow up? Mom and dad in the house, any siblings? How'd you grow up there?
So mom, single parent. Dad was deadbeat, missing, lived in Cincinnati. Never really came up. I can count on both hands the number of times I saw him. Up to 18 years old. So, it was, I had an older brother though that was 16 years my senior, who was my hero growing up. And he was a technologist. He is a technologist. He's a software engineer. Anything to do with tech. He had computers back when they still had to save the data on cassette tapes off of tape recorders. And then you would record it. When you hit save on a computer, you would hit record on the tape recorder, and it would save the data on a regular cassette tape, like a digital cassette tape. And then when you want to upload the data, you would hit upload on the computer and then hit play back on the tape.
Wow.
Like, he was in that, like in the 80s when they were just coming out with like home computers. So I was fortunate that I grew up in the Oaks, but I had a computer in my house since before I could walk. Yeah. And then my mom is an avid reader, huge literary fan. So I've been reading, I've devoured books all my life, and I'm an autodidact. So I tell people I'm an autodidact and I'm a technologist because of my mom and my older brother, who was like my father, because he was just old enough to where it was like he's 16 years older. So by the time I was born, he's graduating high school.
Right.
By the time I'm getting out of high school, he's really deep into his career, like just really gotten deep off into his career. By the time, I'm getting deep into my career, he's thinking about like retirement. So he's always been close enough though to where it's like I could relate to him, but far enough to where it's like he's telling me, like, I'm telling you, dumbass boy. This is what's coming around the corner. Like,
For sure.
and eventually you start seeing it like, dang, I mean, he taught me how to think. Like, logically, he would ask me, like, when I did something, like, why'd you do that? And really help me break down, like, what sense does that make? And really the why. And people ask, like, how do you think the way you do? I'm like, my brother really challenged me on that. And my mom and my mom both had common sense, but that programmer mindset he had was like the object-oriented way of thinking. It was like, you know what? That don't make sense to go and get in the car with y'all if I know y'all got a gun in the car.
Right.
That makes no sense.
Right.
Literally, Cat's like, but what? Like,
Yeah.
it makes no sense. It's not cool. That's actually kind of dumb. Like,
Right.
oh, you a nerd, bro. Go on, bro. And it's like, no, what sense does that make, bro? Like, think about it.
Yeah. So, what elementary school did you go to?
Bellhaven.
Bellhaven,
Sweet
man.
Bellhaven.
Yeah. So like, what kind of student were you at that smaller level of yourself? Like, what kind of student were you?
I was literally the person I am today. I was the kid who they told my mom if your son would just do his homework, he would ace all of his tests. When we had the CAT test back in the day,
Yeah.
I would they used to show it in like that the printer paper, the long printer paper.
The Scantron joint?
Yeah, Scantron, it would like show the X's for your proficiency, and like I would scan, like mine would read off the line, like. So it was like I was an advanced kid because of this technology and this book experience. And people were like, oh, you know, everybody knew like he's a super smart kid. And I always felt disconnected because I'm like, oh, I don't think that I'm that smart. I just read a lot and I play with computers and technology. And my brother's helping me learn how to think. It's not that I'm smart.
That's all it takes sometimes.
It's taking just work. I'm like, so it was like, but our people was like, bro, let me cheat off your test. And if you don't let me cheat, bro, I'm beating you up after class. And it's like, but I'd rather just help you learn how to do it instead of you cheating, because I don't want you to need, you're going to need it later. Like, I understood all this as a kid. I was that kid where people were like, what the fuck are you talking about, bro? Just let me cheat off the test, bro. Like,
yeah.
And I'm like,
they wanted the elevator and not the stairs.
And I'm like, I enjoy the stairs. I am a person who enjoys the work.
I
like,
said that.
I love it. I relish in it. So for me, it was like I could get lost in books and disappear and just be out the world in this book. I could go through a book in a couple days. Back when I was a kid and I had free time, I'd blow through a 200 or 300 page book. Like, it was nothing. But it was because of that, I had the proficiency. I could retain information, all these skills that I got from this outlier experience. I didn't have context till later in life. But it was like, this was giving me an edge where all my teachers told my mom, like, your son literally aces his test and doesn't do his homework, so we have to pass him. Right. But he could be the highest ranking student in our class. He just won't do his homework. He should be a 4.0 student. Like, but I was always like a 2.5. When I graduated, my graduating GPA at high school.
You going too far, bro.
Sorry,
Come on.
Okay.
Come on. All right.
Bring it back.
Right. So let's still go back to the home dynamic, right? So like, what did mom do for a living?
Mom was a nurse at Children's Medical Center.
Okay.
She worked in the emergency room.
Okay, word.
So she was scared to death of everything that could possibly happen because she's seen everything that could happen to a kid.
For sure. So was there ever any moment where like your mom would say like, man, you acting like your dad?
Oh yeah, all the time.
And in what ways was that?
She would say it when I was with my intelligence, not putting it to the fullest effect. She was like, you're the most, you teach me something every day. I go to my job and tell my friends every day you come home from school, you teach me something new. And if you just apply yourself, you're going to be an example, a poster child for a mind is a terrible thing to waste. If you don't get it together and straighten up, you're going to be just like your dad, which he made a lot of money, but he didn't really maximize his potential as somebody she considered to be a very brilliant individual.
Right. So like, what did he do?
He was an engineer. Aviation engineer. When he got his master's in engineering, and he had done work. A brilliant man by his own right from a technical standpoint, but a very terrible person from just a spirit standpoint, from abuse that he endured, from according to what my mom said, and like just some of the stories about what he went through with his dad and such. So I'm oftentimes reminded when I see brothers who have their father there, like, that dynamic where it's like that, that real support from a man is there. My brother did an excellent job, but knowing the difference of having a father figure there, the confidence to, help push away that over nurturing mom and be like, man, let him breathe a little bit and scrape his knee. He'll be all right. And just letting you have that room to grow. It was like, I didn't realize how much I missed that, but then knowing how, some of his vices and how he was, it's like, it's better that he wasn't around. It's better that my brother was around. So,
right. So, like other than so like reading books, studying computers, What other things were you into? Like, were you into sports at all? Anything of that nature?
Absolutely. So all the sports that I was into, back in elementary school, I was, playing in like 21, all the, basketball, scramble football, but organized sports never really made sense to me. And I didn't even understand how important that ended up being in the way that I operate and move through the world. But I ended up getting into more objective sports where like I was by myself. Like it just depended on me. Like I wasn't on a team because I couldn't.
What's some of the solo sports?
Like wrestling.
Okay.
Track, cross country running.
Yeah, I ran cross country.
My brother was into tennis. He was trying to get me to get into tennis.
Ain't no iron team, but it's an iron win.
Absolutely. See that, man? And it was like, and I learned later on. That's real. Sometimes you can't depend on the team. Sometimes you can.
Yeah.
Sometimes the team is the reason you won. You had the worst game of your life. But then I learned during the pandemic that, objective and subjective athletes have different strengths and weaknesses. And so me, inadvertently going that route of being an objective athlete, people would ask me, like, how can you do the things you do by yourself for long periods of time, the things you work on as far as business. And we all know athleticism, if you were an athlete, it's unparalleled, unmitigated proof in regards to how much it translates over in success as a business owner or in sales or anything like that. And so, but then I just read that it depends on if you play team sports or if you played sports where it was just you. In team sports, it's easy to work in a group. If you don't have a group, though, you don't necessarily know how to operate because you need other people to lean on. But in objective athleticism, where you're by yourself, you depend solely on yourself. But when it comes to a team dynamic, you won't really fit in well when it comes to a personality type. But objective athletes have the ability to endure for long periods, and they know if this doesn't work, if it does work, it's on me. Right. There's nobody really to celebrate this or to really say anything about this failing except for me. In team sports, I can have the best game of my life, be out there balling, and the team just have a bad game.
And we lose. I won.
And the championship one, I won, but but y'all lost the championship. You was that good, you would at least been able to carry the team to a win. we want a star. Right. We good,
Right.
So it's the reality of I looked at it like that in school, like, man, the goofing off, how cats would get into their feelings and then do things to undermine the team and stuff. And I was like, nah, I'm not with that. That's weird.
Right.
That's weirdo stuff to me.
Right. So, what's one of your most fondest childhood memories? Yep, that one. Every time we interview somebody, the first one you look at is normally the real one.
Fondest.
It's that story right there. It's the first story you think of. It's always that one.
I was thinking, just the tech stuff, like all the things, all the times I was immersed in technology, how the escape that I had with that. Like every time we got gifts and it was books, I got to a point where books or computer parts or whatever, it was exciting. And just the idea of having my first computer, build my own first computer.
Yeah, I built my first own computer.
Yeah, my brother bought the parts. It was
we didn't become best friends.
Yeah, bro. That's why we clicked up from the get go, bro. It was already a click up as a result of that because we already similar paths, guys.
For sure.
And that's what it was, though. That technology piece, it was always a joy to get anything on the tech side, and I was a proud nerd. Back when you was getting beat up for it, I'm I don't care. I'm still a nerd. I'm still athletic. I'm still gonna get out here. I can still, I'm in the hood. But I'm still into this. And to see it be cool now, it was it's weird. It's different. I'm glad it is. But it's still not even being realized in a full way. And my brother was trying to get me more in the software programming side. And I just, as a kid, was I can't see it. I'm more on the hardware side. I'd rather build it, put it together, hook up the network. Might do some software stuff, installing the operating system, getting codecs installed, fixing drivers, stuff like that. But as far as programming, it takes a special kind of person. I could never get into that. But just anytime I got a gift, and it was those. I remember those little circuit boards where they had all the little.
Yeah. Where you poke one in there, you poke another one in there.
Yeah, and you can
jump them, and you can put resistance in there and all that.
Yeah, bro. That's what I'm saying, bro. That was it. That's what I'm saying. I would ask my mom for the bigger one every year, and the bigger one, and the bigger one. All right, I started the smaller joint. Let me get the next size up. And then one year I got to the super big board. When
you get the one that plug in, you lit.
Yeah, literally, bro. Literally,
at the bar.
Absolutely, bro. Get the plug in when you lit, bro.
Yeah, for sure.
For real, bro. That's what it was. I was that kid.
For sure. So, but tell me one of those good mama stories, man. Where mama was mama, and you was man, that's one of those ones that warm your heart.
her really making an effort to be at every single thing we did. Like
That's
it was
hard.
like it was 3. It's like she had a clone or something because she prided herself on like taking a break from her job to come and see our choir performance, you know, and then getting off work and then come and see my wrestling match and then rushing to my sister's, you know. She was a cheerleader, you know, going to her cheerleading, you know, at the basketball game, you know what I'm saying? Like really being there, but I really saw her in the stands, you know, saw her, you know, in the background, PTA meetings, like just she was there in those teachers, like people, they were scared of her because she was like, oh no, I'm serious about my baby's education. Like I'm squeezing everything I can up out of this, knowing I'm a taxpayer. And I'm gonna hold y'all's feet all the way to the fire. Matter of fact, if you see my kid doing something, snatch him like he's yours. If you need me to put it on paper, I'll give it to you. You can whip him, whatever. Like whatever you got to do.
Yeah.
If he's in here wasting time playing around with you teaching him something, I'd rather you do it because if I have to come off my job, I'm like, this is what she's telling me. Like she's telling me like, yo, if those teachers call me down to the school this year, I'm going to ask them to hold an assembly. I'm going to walk you up on stage. I'm going to pull your pants down. And I'm going to whip your ass in front of your class with your back turned to them. And then I'm going to let Children's Services take me away. And she meant it. She's like, and I work with them at Children's Medical Center. I see him all the time. I'll call Destry and have him go ahead and, you know, pull some strings and I'll be out.
Man.
And if you need to leave the house at that point or whatever, I got you. But you're not about to have me leaving my job because you ain't here acting up about your education. Like she was so big on that. Like
we got Tina Shaw checking and saying, "Oh, that's awesome! What a great mother!"
Yeah.
Shout out to Mama Love. We love Mama Love on this podcast. You're right now.
Yes,
for sure, man. So, man, so like, did Mom ever tell you stories of why Dad probably wasn't around, or she just kind of leave it open ended?
She definitely told me, and I have memories of it. You know, it was one, he was, you know, a rampant alcoholic, and it was like, you know, realizing that now was a lot of just demons he never dealt with. And so, you know, he also was, you know, a gambler. Just like she was literally like the glue that was holding the family together. Like she was like, you know, he would leave from work, lie and say he was coming home, be out gambling, smoking, drinking, partying, you know, philandering. He was, you know, a cheater. Definitely was like out there, you know, like it's just you, baby. And had a whole nother family that he had been building. And like at the end of it, like I remember I described it to my mom some years back, but like once I was an adult, I remember the day he left, like where we were in the house. I remember how the house, I was only 3, but I remember it was almost like a dream, but I was old enough and aware enough to be like, this is him really leaving. Like I remember standing on the landing, like the way our house was set up, you'd walk in the front door and it's like the living room and the dining room is all like just a shotgun. And it was a 2-story on Indianola. And then you walk up the steps and it's a landing and then you turn and go up the steps again. And I remember as a kid, like, watching him and my mom argue. I was standing on the middle landing, looking up and watching them argue at the top of the stairs, and him having clothes and stuff under his arms, and just almost like remember him saying like, "This is it, I'm gone, I'm not coming back," and him walking past me and like kind of coming back and like grabbing me and kissing me, and then walking out the door with her chasing him, and then going out the door. And I described it to her. She's like, "That's exactly how it happened." And I was 3, but I remember it like it was like I thought it was a dream, but then she was like, "That's exactly what happened."
Damn, man. Show, man. So how'd you feel in that moment? I mean, like, you know, to have like somebody there that, I mean, you know, like at 3 years old, of course you don't understand what the argument's about, what it possibly could be, but in hindsight, you know what I'm saying, hindsight's 2020, how do you feel looking back at that kid at that moment?
It was just like, you know, knowing like it was almost like the feeling as a kid. It was like I remember almost like I was imprinting this moment super hard because I knew he was leaving for real, but I didn't know that. But something in me was like, he's walking, he's leaving, and it's like I don't even know what that really means. I know that kind of means he's probably not coming back, but I don't really know how that's going to impact me. I'm like, I remember thinking like, this for whatever reason, this is it. I don't remember him doing that any other time. And it's been the case before, but I just remember that being like, I think this is really it.
Right.
So it was just like, you know, okay, well, this is, you know, it. And it wasn't just that, like he didn't stop there. The house that we were living in on Indianola, he had it in his name. And my mom was basically like, look, instead of you paying this much for child support, how about you take this amount out and just pay the mortgage so we can have a place for us to live. Right. And you can go off and do your thing. You're going to pay child support anyway, but just allot this amount for the mortgage. He's like, nope, I'd rather you all figure it out. So he let the house get foreclosed on. And for that summer, my mom had to sit with us in the park. She was dating this guy. She would have to sit with us in the park till he got off work. And then we would go to his house when he got off work, and that's where we would sleep at. And she was like, you know, I would sit and let you all play at the park while I would just sit at the bench and cry. You know, so he,
Man.
you know, and she was saying that he came back years later and was telling how he would go to work his job and brag to his coworkers, like how he was basically making our life hard because he was bitter, and his people was just kind of like, you know, man, you are a slime ball. Like he admitted that he was wrong for all those things, and he should have let her keep the house instead of figuring it out. But my mom is just so much of a fighter, like straight up Leo. She wasn't going for it. So
Yeah, man, shout out to her. I'm a Leo too,
yeah,
man,
so, you know,
for
y'all got
sure, for sure. But we ain't
ferociousness,
giving
man.
up.
Nah,
We ain't giving
I
up.
look good doing it, man.
It ain't-
You made me go know, like,
Yeah,
that's how she was.
you feel me, man? Shout out to Mama Love, man, for sure. I really love that part of your story, man. So, like, let's talk about middle school, man. So, like, middle school is kind of where we in that middle phase of rebellion. We ain't jumped out the porch yet. Did you catch a spike of that during that era of your life? And what school did you go to for middle school?
Yeah, I went to Fairport Middle, you know, the now
Fairport.
defunct Fairport Middle. And one thing that I can remember from that experience was that was when apparently, like, I had self-esteem issues, confidence issues, you know. Chocolate wasn't in then, even though it was. It was, but people weren't open about it.
Right.
Just like, you know, our super voluptuous women, like, they always been in, but people are just more openly saying, like, they love it.
True.
And I've always loved, you know, all ranges, shapes, and sizes of sisters. So I've always been a person where it's like, no, I've been clear in high school. Like, people like, bro, for real? I'm like, yeah. They like, damn, I'm like, I know it's a lot, but
yeah,
I ain't got no shame in it. Like, you know, I think it looks great. And so in that, I didn't have that confidence, but when apparently girls was liking me and things.
Man, B-Nut, you idiot, B-Nut. Wait. You know I'm doing a podcast right now. You gonna call me during the podcast, B-Nut. And look, I love you so much.
You wanna be a caller?
I got you on emergency bypass. So my phone will ring it. If you in a car wreck, you can call me. You choose to call in during this presentation. Nah.
Before the podcast started, I thought the podcast started at 7.
Nah, I'm being silly, bro. Hey, yo, what you want to say to KÉMO, bro? I got him in the building.
Yeah, that's what I was calling.
I know, bro. I'm playing. Hey, what you want to say to KÉMO?
Hey, what up, though?
What up, though?
I'm trying to get the number so I can probably call in before I walk up in this meet, man. That's what I wanted to say. What up, though?
Word. Like, salute, man.
Thanks, God.
Like, for real. Yeah. So how long you think it's gonna last?
Bro, I'm gonna call you back, man. Come on, we live, man.
I love it, bro.
Oh, y'all live already?
B-Nut, man. Bye, B-Nut, man. God, come on, man.
Let me give a shout out to my dude, KÉMO, man. Hey, bro, I appreciate what you're doing.
Good thanks, bro.
You know what I'm saying? Keep doing what you're doing, though, KÉMO, for real, though, man.
For sure.
Don't stop. If there's anything I can do, hit me up.
Good things.
You know what I'm saying? But anything,
Repost the design the build right now. Love you, bro.
Love you. Appreciate it, God. Love you.
All right, one. My bad, man. We right in the middle. Some man beating up you, idiot, man. I just had to do that because Smad, which ain't his name no more, he would not tolerate that. He'd be like, "You idiot!" So I stole it from him. Right. So middle school, right? You know what I'm saying? So like you come into your own. What are your interests during that time?
Girls.
Yeah.
Of course, you know. And
Girls.
that's what I'm saying. Like, I remember I was telling somebody, you know, some years ago, like, I remember it was this one girl. It was the first time I ever hugged a girl that was on some, like, wearing perfumes type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was the first time it was, like, ever, like, a hug where it was, like, it wasn't a hug where it was a shot, but she did it nonchalantly. But it was the first time as women are starting, the girls are starting to come into their stuff. They
You embraced it.
Yeah, but I almost fainted, bro. Not from the hug, from the smell. Like, it caught me off guard. The whole experience, I remember getting lightheaded and had to catch myself. Like, bro, don't have a sucker attack off a hug. And I just remember that we was at the lockers, and it was like I remember being so lightheaded. Like, bro, is this what this is about?
Yeah.
Like, I think I just hit puberty or something. Like, I think I just became a man. Like, shoot.
Yeah.
No, that had never happened before, so it was like, oh, okay, that's what this is all about. This is what all these cats keep making a big deal about to us little young elementary school cats. Like, oh,
yeah, for sure. So, bro, everybody, I'm cussing everybody out today. I'm cussing everybody out today.
Rolling.
Everybody put on Mercy Bypass calling me right now, obviously.
That's a blessing, man.
It is, man. It is blessing to be that love and that respected, that your word cannot wait 15 or 20 hours from now, right? I don't care. So at this point in your life, what is your goal when it comes to like what you wanted to do with your life?
I was at that point. I was feeling really out of place coming into like young adulthood because again, like I was always the one everybody was like, that's a smart kid. Like coming into middle school, people from elementary school, when teachers would be like, they would question like, how I aced the test, but I hadn't turned in any homework, and kids would speak up like, nah, that's a smart kid. Like he always does that. Like it was kind of like for me, like, dang, y'all paying attention to what I'm doing? Like I have this brand and title where like I actually had again people who were like wanting to sit beside me because they like, I already know you about to ace the test, bro. I just need to look up off your joint, bro. So it was just like I'm being almost treated as this outlier, like he's a smart kid. But it's like I put a post up, a meme up the other day on my story, my IG story. That was somehow don't tell black kids that they're white acting because they're intellectual. It's toxic, you know what I'm saying? And it really just make you where you shrink away. So I ended up going from like in middle school. In elementary school, I would get done with my work and get up and go around the class and voluntarily help other kids with their work without the teachers asking, where they ended up just asking me to be an A because I would get bored. I would finish everything first and I would get restless. And so then I'd be tapping my foot or doing stuff with my pencil or doodling. And they like, yeah, you got stuff done with the thing, just sit there quietly. And it's like kids ain't designed to sit nowhere still. So I would be bored, unengaged.
Because kids are designed to build.
They're designed to build. Hey, you got to rap. You ain't talking about the rap career, bro?
Now, come on, bro. But yeah, so
that's real.
So
middle school, I started acting out. So middle school, I became the class clown because it's like I realized it's not cool to be the smart kid. You get picked on, you get treated like, dang, bro, if you would have failed your test like everybody else in the class, they wouldn't have been like, well, we know somebody had to be paying attention because he got it.
Right.
So people, it was things like that where it's like, bro, make sure you don't pass the test, bro, because we all planning, we ain't do the homework, bro. So, or don't turn your homework in, bro. If you're going to turn your thing in. Or like we had a class project and I knew my grade depended on it. I do all the work by myself to get the class project through just to make sure I didn't fail because everybody else didn't do their part. But I'd be like, but yeah, nobody helped me on this.
Wow.
Where it was like, I'm going to do what I got to do. But it was almost like, bro, how dare you
be smart in front of us.
Be smart and actually be productive and perform. So I was like, okay, so now I'm like low-key not doing the studying to make sure I pass the test. I'm like intentionally failing them to where I'm like, I'm trying to be cool with my mom. That's when she really was starting to be like, what are you doing?
Right.
Like before it was just the test and not the homework. Now it's not the test. You talking back to teachers. Like you not like, what's up? And it's like, I'm basically tired of getting picked on for being the smart kid. I'm tired of getting isolated out because I'm the smart kid. Like I just want to be one of the normal kids. So I started diminishing myself.
Word, man. So talk about that transition from middle school into high school.
Coming into high school.
Which high school?
So I started out at Belmont my freshman year.
Belmont?
And then I begged my mom, pleaded with my mom, my cousin too, who was at Colonel White already. We begged her to let me go to Colonel White because I'm still living right there at corner of Mayfair and Parkwood. It's like it's right up the street. Belmont, I got to get bused across to the east side of town. If I miss my bus, I'm screwed. At Colonel White, my older cousin, she's a woman. She's like, she's there to watch me. She's one of the more responsible ones in the family. Everybody always thought, she was like, yo, Muff gonna make sure everything's good. So we had to put this whole pitch together my whole freshman year. And then the second quarter of my sophomore year, she was like, okay, damn, just shut up, I'll transfer him.
Now before we make that transition, was there anything that you actually particularly liked about Belmont?
So my mom sent me there because their magnet was tech. And again, she knows I'm growing up in this tech autodidact background, reading all the time. Like I'm all about this stuff. She's like, oh, this is the pathway. This is before programmers was really being treated like they were, God in the tech world. Like this hadn't happened yet. Right. It was still just like you do it as a hobby because they hadn't really figured out. Again, I graduated in 2003. High school would have been 2000. This is like the .com bust.
Yeah.
They started kind of making some money, but now it's like, well, damn, this tech thing really ain't working out. So I'm in the middle of that, not seeing that there's money in this. My brother was trying to teach me to get on coding, but it was just something to do because he likes it. It's fun. But he never wanted to go out and code a software and sell the app. That was never his idea of getting into coding. He's fine with working a job for somebody and coding, getting paid handsomely for it.
Right.
But I'm like, once I understood it's coming into that, like high school, I'm like, well, this Belmont is just teaching us how to type. They don't have coding classes. Like it's hype. There is no Magnum. Like
you just doing words per minute. Like,
but I learned typing. I learned
running it up.
Belmont.
Running it up.
I running it up, bro. I definitely learned typing at Belmont in their technology track. But I'm like, Ma, there's no other courses besides typing and advanced typing and like maybe some computer assembly, which I know how to do already. I'm like, there's nothing here. This is when all that was, the STEM thing was very fledgling because they were still trying to figure out like, where's the money in it?
Right.
But this is where we going, but where's the money in it? So I'm seeing this and I understand it. But in high school, I was already an entrepreneur. Middle school, elementary school, I was already an entrepreneur. I tell people like I was doodling. I remember as a kid having notebooks and doodling like ideas for like things. Heelys, I had drawn a design for Heelys and all these different iterations. I didn't know that I was doing like product development. I would just be in the car doodling to myself for ideas for things like, well, what if I took a shoe and put a wheel here? But what kind of problems would that create? Like, and I'm not talking this out loud, but I'm remembering in my head doing this as a kid. But nobody ever. I'm like, I wish I had those notebooks. That my mom just probably was like, just doodle, they threw them away. But I was doing that at 6, 7, 8 years old. I was already on the engineering thing, maybe because I saw something my dad was doing. And my brother being a software engineer, I was in this engineer background. But nobody was saying like, this kid is already starting to do this. How do we get him in some type of program, STEM related? So it wasn't until like high school I started getting really into entrepreneurship. I was building computers for people, getting paid for it. I was doing IT work for people, getting paid for it. I wasn't calling it entrepreneurship though. It was just that my mom is a single parent. She's not a licensed nurse, so she's not getting paid that well. But she's been there so long. She's basically taking the resident doctors coming out of their med school under her wing and basically preparing them to go off and
then make $100.
They telling her like, you should go back and get your honorary degree because you're a doctor for real. But she didn't have that opportunity in her upbringing coming from West Virginia. So it was like my dad was the one that had the degree and went that track, but he was an asshole. And my mom was the one that was like the humble, caring heart that just worked hard. Should have been paid more, deserved more, but just had the integrity and like the character there. So like I got the best of my dad and the best of my mom, but it was like mom, she didn't understand like the value of what it could have meant to go back and do the school thing, even though it would have been hard. It would have bumped her pay up, and she could have almost gotten a lot of those courses excused if she just started down the pathway, but she didn't know. There was no internet to know that unless you knew somebody who was like, you know what? I'm gonna tell you. So that's why she was so on us. Like, I didn't do it. I know what it costs me now, but it's too late. I just want to make sure I give you all everything. So she had us in like Right Step, and there was a STEM thing they used to do down in Sinclair, like around like NASA and stuff like that, where it was exposing the kids to all the STEM. She would put us in all this stuff on the weekends during the summertime,
space camp and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, everything, anything and everything. It's like, I don't care if you all don't think it's cool, you don't like it, you going.
Right.
So it was like, looking back, it was like she was forcing it. My brother was forcing it. And then in high school, I started making money because this is when CD burners was still $800, $1,000 for.
Run up that CD burner era, bro.
This is before they was even. This was no Napster.
Right.
There was no none of those platforms like peer-to-peer sharing services. There was no Google.
You had to rip a CD.
You had to rip it. You had to know where to find, either rip it or know what websites had them posted. But you had to know the domain just from word of mouth.
Yeah.
There was no search engine like free music online.
Right.
You just had to know where it was. And so I found it was a website called realestniggas.com, bro. The wildest shit ever, bro.
I want that still a website. If not, we need to buy it.
There's something to check, but this is realestniggas.com, and they uploaded every album, rap, R&B album in existence to their own private server. Real life nerd cats who just happen to be black.
Weren't they the realest niggas ever though?
Huh? They was the realest niggas ever,
They
bro.
was, bro.
But it was real media format, so you had to convert it from that to MP3.
Yeah.
And then it was when CD burners was still only 2x max, like when they were still $1,000. To buy it, they didn't put them in computers yet. They were standalone. You buy it when they first became consumer available. My mom working in Children's, they used to have this program called it was a CompUSA thing where they let the employee spend $5,000 at CompUSA for a 2-week period.
CompUSA.
You remember that, bro?
Yeah.
They would let the employee spend $5,000 at CompUSA in this 2-week period from like right after Thanksgiving till 2 weeks before Christmas, like that 2-week gap. And they could buy whatever they wanted from CompUSA, and then they would take it out of their paycheck every pay period till it was paid back to that time next year and let them do it again.
Yeah.
So
It's like buying power.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they would my mom would take me, my brother, and my sister to CompUSA, and they'd be like, man, latest video card, the latest RAM, the latest motherboard, the latest tower. And then it's like, oh, CD burners just became available. Mom, we need to buy this. She's like, this one thing is $1,000, $200 for this one little thing. Like, it's a CD burner. Mom, I can make money with it. She's like, okay, so I done bought the CD burner, installed it.
We ain't got to spend them.
Got this. This is when the stack was like $100 for 100 of them because they're still $100 a disc.
Yeah.
This ain't when it was cheap. This is when they were still taxing for disc.
So
Wow.
you dropping full like $100, $1 a disc. So I'm like, we need this spindle too. Like, what? These blank discs are, it's like, I'm pitching my case like, Ma, trust me. So then I'm going back to school to cats like, hey, bro, you want to listen to all these different songs from all these different albums. What if I can give you all the songs? You give me a list of songs you want. I put them on this CD. You pay me $1 a song, and I basically make you your own master mix. This is before mixtapes and all that shit, bro.
Word.
I'm in high school. This is like
Say
98, 99.
Yeah.
So I'm only doing it because my mom, because of her income, we was on subsidized lunches. We couldn't afford to go through the chicken popper line.
Say chicken poppers,
See, bro?
man.
Y'all messed
Bro,
y'all up.
Bro,
And the cheese and hot
wait.
Cheetos and Fruitopia.
I need an ISO, right? Because I graduated in 2004, you 2003, bro.
You know what I'm talking about?
Y'all young kids were not outside for the chicken popper line. The Fruitopias, bro. Come on, man. Come on, bro.
Chicken poppers and cheese with Fruitopia, bro.
Bro, what happened to Fruitopia, man? All
It's
right.
closed out, bro. They just disappeared.
All right, man.
So I'm like, I'm just wanting to get this premium lunch option. Moms didn't have the money, so I'm just doing this with these discs because I'm like, I want to be able to afford to do that, or if I want to buy me a pair of shoes, I'm going to West Virginia and buying Timberlands from this is when Gabriel Brothers, before they came here. Again, this is 98, 99, 2000. Tim's was hot in the country. They just wear them for like, you know, for the
yard work.
So I'm getting Timberlands like real life, not the ones with the funny collar, none of that stuff, bro. The real ones, all these different colors for like $40, $50. When they 120, 130, so cats started paying me, like, you going back to West Virginia for your family reunion this year? Bro, here's the money, bro. Buy me a couple pair of Timberlands, bro, and I'll go ahead and break you off the difference, and I'll just save a little bit. So I'm getting Timberlands, bro. Again, I'm not knowing none of this is like arbitrage or entrepreneurship.
Yes, sir.
They marking it up higher in our community because they know we're going to pay the premium, but these same shoes in West Virginia at Gabriel Brothers is $40 for the same Timberlands.
Same one.
Not defective, nothing wrong with it,
Right.
bro. Not scuffed up, nothing, bro. Just because they know that these people out here don't give a fuck about them. They're going to kill them. Like, they're not gonna pay $120 for no shoes. They're gonna dog. We trying not to get creases in our Timberlands.
Exactly.
They dogging them. Like, let's go another pair for 40 for the week type shit. So I'm like, I'm seeing these opportunities. Again, nobody's saying that's entrepreneurship. It wasn't until my dad ended up settling my loan money to go to college.
Oh, well,
okay.
That's where we headed, right? Yeah. That's where we headed. So before we get to that point, what is your thoughts? What's your goals for college? What things have you taken when it comes to being prepared for college?
So
and then walk us into what ultimately happened.
So I played myself trying to be too smart, and I was in fact intelligent. And I say that because on the ACT, I scored second highest out of my entire class.
Wow.
On one attempt. And the only reason I scored so low, in my opinion, was because I almost failed the math part. Like I didn't care about math. I didn't care to try to understand it. My brother is a math whiz, and he's like, it's just practice. My sister got really good at math in high school, and she was astounded at how much it really was just practice. I'm like, I'm not really interested in it. I don't see the relevance, the application. So why am I getting into it? But on the reading and writing part, I scored in the 30s. On the science part, I scored like a 29. So like I scored in the 30s on everything except for the math, which was like a 19. I think passing was like 17.
Right.
So like I barely
even met the standard, but you still was the second highest
because of like just again I could write. Writing was I was planning on going and becoming a journalist in college.
Okay.
Because I could write, I could have an assignment where the teacher's like okay, you need to go ahead and quote your citations. I wouldn't do that, but I would be able to go and just skim information real quick a couple hours before the class in the library and hand in an assignment and score higher than everybody in the class. And people be like, man, I just saw bro doing his assignment in the library. And the teacher's like, one, he got it in on time. One, quit snitching. Two, he got it in on time. And three, he still outdid you with only 2 hours to do it from scratch. But I read and I can finish a piece in my head when I write something.
Right.
It's not that I'm taking time to break it down and write it. I've already decided how it's going to be in my head before I put it on paper. And I still do that to this day with business writing. Anything I do, I already know what I'm saying before I put it on paper. I don't have to think it through. It's already there. So I'm like, because I exercise that muscle, I tell people it's not that I have some special gene. It's just that growing up, I over-exercise that muscle, like those little kid gymnasts that you see who are strong as heck.
Yeah.
It was like that with my mind because I read so much and I got the internet. Like that was one thing that was a highlight. I can say my childhood. You asked me that. When I first got high-speed internet. You laughing?
No.
Listen,
I know what you. No. I grew up in a household where, so for instance, right. Shout out to my stepdad. Shout out to my mom. they are always getting the new tech stuff. Always, right? So I was the kid, I will go get to that later on. And then my grandmother was the one who taught me how to build computers because she had me teaching kids that was my same age how to build computers. It was a program called we won a Neighborhood of the Year award in Pittsburgh for the same thing. Like we take old computers, we bring them in, we take them apart, use that little dust and spray to spray all those cobwebs out, all the type of stuff, and I would Frankenstein a computer for somebody. So I was the person who I know what you mean when you say when you first got high speed internet. Like I remember using dial-up, and my mom worked at RTA, right? So my mom used to get this way back in the day, right? To the point where they used to do wake-up calls for employees. Now that's unheard of. Now you better get up and go to work.
Exactly.
Now I'll be on dial-up overnight because I got to finish that file because like if I disconnect, it's gonna be an error code, and I don't
wait. No pause. They don't know. Bro.
Ain't no pause in it, right? So my mom used to get so mad because she had missed her wake-up call. She come in there, kick in, knock the pull the router out the wall. I done got so good. I done learned how to fix it and put it back together. My mom like, I'm tired of you.
Right? Blocking the phone. And my mom was like that. Like my thing was star 67. Yeah. You star 67 it in the dial-up number at the beginning, prefix, put that star 67, it wouldn't let no calls come through. So if somebody having to pull up to the house like, hey Sharon, I called the house, but it was just going straight to voicemail. I was like, you know, it's like, damn, man, like mom, almost done. Like turn it off right now. And it's like, mom, I swear, like those types of situations, like you gonna have to beat me because I can't let this file go. It's been like a day. It was worth the ass whooping, bro. So I was able to pitch her again. It's like, look, mom, when dial-up first became, or high speed DSL first came out from Ameritech, I told moms like, look, mom, this year is this thing coming out called high speed internet, DSL internet. I was like, it literally lets you be on the phone while I'm doing what I'm doing. It won't block the lineup anymore. I'm not telling her like it lets me download music and point all this faster. I'm just like, I'm pitching the case like the benefits to you because of these features is XYZ, and you don't got to get me a motherfucking thing besides this for Christmas this year. Right. I don't want nothing else besides high-speed internet for 12 months. Just promise me you'll cover the bill for 12 months. I don't want anything else for Christmas. Nothing. Right. Like that's all I want. Like I remember negotiating that with her. She's like, you sure? I'm like, I don't give a fuck about nothing else. Right, exactly. You got this. Let me get this high speed. Right. Got the high speed, and it was like,
what was the first album you downloaded?
I don't even remember. I downloaded so many, bro. I was so amazed at the speed. Like,
you gonna laugh at me about telling what album I downloaded?
What'd you download, bro?
I downloaded Joe Budden. I downloaded Moon Music 1.
Bro, we not gonna knock Joey because what's gonna happen is we clown him now when this gets big. They gonna be like, bro, remember when you knocked Joe Budden?
No. I still think he's one of the best rappers ever. Like, yeah, like if you rate him just I'll pump it up, then I understand why. Right. If you don't heard that as mixtape stuff, I understand why you'd be like, why would you download that? But to me, it was that.
He just wasn't a good crossover rapper on like the mainstream. He wasn't a good mainstream rapper, but he was great. It's a lot of rappers like Murder Mook, all those cats was
for sure
beasts, but they didn't do well trying to go live and mainstream public with like it just wasn't who they was.
For sure. So all right. So what kind of music were you into during this time of your life?
So my older brother, growing up in West Virginia for part of his life, but also growing up here, he was like, he told me about when his homeboy first came back from New York, like, bro, it's this new group called Run DMC.
Okay.
They got this album, they got this song, and he was like, man, I remember popping that in the first time. He's like, in my mind was just blown. He was like, we had heard, like, you know, he was born in 69, so he was there for like Curtis Blow, like that was all during his childhood, you know, like Curtis Blow, you know, Rapper's Delight, like he witnessed all that happen. But then he was like, that Run DMC thing was just like, he was like, it blew our minds, bro. Like, whoa, this is another level with this rap thing. So he was in that world, but then he was going back to West Virginia, listening to, you know, country and blues, you know what I mean, just the whole 9 yards, everything you could think of, but also classical. So growing up, him being my hero, I could be riding with him to West Virginia back, you know, for a reunion. Like everybody's like, oh, we riding in this car and that car. I'm riding with Moochie because I already know, like, I want to be cool, hang out with my big brother. But we listen to everything from Tchaikovsky to Garth Brooks to, you know, Kiss to Run DMC to Biggie.
A wide
you know
taste
what I'm saying? Back to, you know, Mozart. Like literally, he would be all over the place. Like it was. So I grew up with like this, and then my mom, of course, all the oldies. All she played all day, every day was every single old, even the ones that most people are like are obscure. That was like the number 21 on the list back in
Right.
like the 19
Right.
60s. Like she
Like
was
Cyndi Lauper on that
so
joint.
wild, like just all that.
Yeah.
So it was like I was exposed to like this broad range where I'm immersed in different cultures with books and technology. The internet was like, it opened up the world to me where I'm like, man, I can connect. I'm in chat rooms, bro, talking with people, telling I'm 21, 25 years old, clowning, bro, like Yahoo and Excite Chat and all that with avatars, bro.
Yeah, what?
And you couldn't even see people's faces. Then somebody actually had their face in the avatar.
Bro.
That was amazing. Like, bro, how did you do that?
Bro, I got catfish on America Online
Oh, word.
and stayed in a relationship.
It was the time, bro. They
It
don't
was
really
time.
understand, bro.
For
We
sure.
was risking it for the biscuit, bro.
They wasn't outside for none
They
of
wasn't
that.
outside for it.
So I mean, so I gotta ask you now, since we're on the level of music and the climate of what's going on, how do you feel about Takeoff being killed at a bowling alley in Houston, Texas?
It's really just repulsive that we continue to glorify the death part of our culture. I was talking to a homegirl of mine, and I was telling her, like, the idea of programming in its simplest terms is what's right feels wrong, what's wrong feels right. And she's like, what do you mean? And I was like, literally, we've been programmed, we've been conditioned to believe the things that we know are wrong feel like the right thing to do. Like, oh, that's black culture, just comes to the territory. He knew what it was, all that kind of stuff, all the stuff we say. But then things that are right is like, that's white people stuff, or that's corny, or this is that, you scared. Like, all the things that are right, there's most of us have something that's like, man, that just seems weak. It's weak. We have to go against whatever that is that seems like it's our voice, not realizing like, no, that's the conditioning from the propaganda and all the things that's been embedded in our subconscious so deep. It's just a feeling at this point. But it's actually a thought, but it's so deep we perceive it as a feeling. Because it's so visceral and so like, lowest common denominator that it actually pulls at those raw emotions.
Yeah.
So it's like those things that feel wrong. It's like, oh, we get off from being in that dice game. Now we can get our head blown off with a $50 million net worth. And we want to be able to say, yeah, I was at the dice game in Houston in the bowling alley on the next rap. Just be able to say I was out there, and I didn't even need no strap. Like the whole fucking idea of like, we want to be able to flex and brag. Like I'm still 1 foot in and 1 foot out. And then when you get cut in half, it's like, well, what the fuck happened? It's like it was a pendulum that was swinging back and forth. It was only a matter of time before it came back for you. And like I was talking to the young cats, and they was like, but bro, he wasn't even the one. It was an accident. I'm like, but did the gun accidentally go off and the bullet ricochet and everybody watching ricochet and hit bro in the chest or something? I'm like, or was it, a disagreement and a scuffle, and he wasn't the intended target, but it was in fact. They was like, they finished my sentence like, but somebody in there was trying to kill somebody. I'm like, exactly. You don't pull a gun out trying to shoot somebody in the foot. This ain't Harlem Nights. They're trying to shoot off a pinky toe. They was trying to kill somebody.
Right.
He just happened to be the one they killed, even though they was trying to kill apparently Quavo for whatever that couple was about. But it doesn't matter. He's gone. Like, it doesn't matter if it was an accident. I'm like, and that's the point I was basically asking. Like, before we get started today on this whole thing, our topic today with the entrepreneurship thing, what y'all think about that? I want to get y'all's thoughts on it. And they was like, oh man, it's messed up. And he was the cool one. And like I said, I played that verse for him off the Nas's, One Love, where, he's talking to the young cat, like, don't let niggas fool him. I told him, tried to school him, told him, don't let niggas fool him, because when the shots ring out, and the one hit usually is the cool one. It's like, literally, I was like, that's Nas. I played it for him. Like, Nas was saying that back in 94, and cats still don't get it. Like, you saying that, I'm glad you said that he was the cool one to you, because other people have said that too. He was the one who was on some chill stuff. He was the one that wasn't in nothing, but it's like, this is my uncle. We already saw that bro had stepped away a couple weeks ago.
Right.
Because he was already like, bro, I'm not with the shenanigans because of that shit. He was smart. It could have been both of them.
Wow.
But he saw it like, nah, bro, I'm trying to step back. I'm not trying to keep being with the shits. Because how Quavo was moving, the oldest one in the fucking group.
Yeah, man.
Somebody's uncle has his nephew in that situation. Now he has to carry that for the rest of his life.
Man.
All because they want to be cool shooting dice with the $50 million net worth each. With people who have guns. Like you said, early, like not being in a casino or whatever. It's like brothers keep falling and everybody's like, it just comes with the territory. It's just cool. It's expected. Like, again, what is wrong feels right. And what is right feels wrong. It's like, oh, well, I mean, look, at least you got to live the way that we going to justify it one way. Like, well, you got to die of something.
Man, and to me, right, to the person that's watching this that will be in a situation similar to this. Hopefully you never get in a situation. You know how many perks you gonna get at a resort hotel with accommodations? You're gonna get a suite. You're gonna get your food complimentary. Your people gonna be straight. You're gonna get a villa, right? A villa, okay? all these different things you would get rather than being inside of a bowling alley in a foreign land that you ain't from, shooting dice with people who you want to impress.
Who look at you like a come up, like, man, I get to be the same. I'm the one that blew dude away.
Exactly.
I get to be the one to hold the chain up in the video. People, I'm gonna have credit. They don't catch me. Like, I'm gonna become a legend. I might come out with a couple joints like Take K and be on the run and doing my thing. Like,
right.
Cats really be on that. Like, bro, you were looking like an easy come up, you bitch. Like,
what?
That's how they treat it, bro. Like, that's really what it is.
Right.
You out here like those cats are looking like y'all are dumb, and they looking at it like,
yeah,
these cats is slipping.
You made it out the marathon, and you made it out the marathon and then start running the wrong direction while I'm still running.
Bro, I'm
gonna run right into you.
I'm running right tackling you, bro. Taking the baton, like, man, I don't know what he was thinking.
Right.
Won't let it happen to me. Like, that's really where we at, and people just keep like, we just keep letting it go down. Like, and I'm like, man, at what point do we really just be like, man, we tired? We don't care if it looks corny not to co-op this no more and say we put it down. Like the young cat that said he was trying to walk away with the whole beef with what you calling him in the shop.
Yeah, we put his flag down, Quando Rondo.
Cat's like, oh no, it's too late for that, bro. You know, and it's just like, bro, again, cats start realizing like, bro, hold on, what am I doing? They're confident they right hand man getting blown away. It's like, bro, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Start making it jars you out of that illusion. Like, hold on.
Exactly.
They put you out the matrix.
Illusion. But so what are some of the pitfalls that kind of kept you on the straight and narrow? Because we about to go back to high school because, you know, we kind of get to the precipice of the story that kind of the defining factor in your life.
Absolutely.
What are some of the things that kind of kept you straight and narrow? I mean, because like you hit that rough patch in middle school, high school, you start to right the ship. What is one of the things that you could say that kept you out of trouble, man?
Again, my brother and my mom poured into me. My mom was doing it through fear, where it was like, you know, if you go to jail or juvie and it's $1 to get you out, or you spend 30 days there, a year, I don't care what it is, you will spend every moment of that time.
She'll give me $1 to get you out.
She made it. She used to say it all the time, like, and just things she would say, like, before you go out this house, every day before school. Once I got to middle school, she was like, every day before you go out this house, before you say or do something to a girl or a woman, think about how you would feel if somebody did that to me or your sister.
There you go.
Like every day I went out the house, he would stop me before I went out the door and say that to me. So people who know me know, like, one thing I don't do is refer to women out of their names.
Me neither.
In private. You know, when I get mad directly to them, when I get mad talking about them when they're not there, it don't matter what the context is.
I will to the locker room.
See, I don't even do it in the locker room because
yeah.
I'm like, man, I just feel like, but I had also stopped saying nigga. Like, I really, leading up to the pandemic, it had been 3 years, 4 years since I had even said it. Because I had decided, like, you know, damn, that's in the same category for real. At first, I didn't feel that way. I'm like, but nah, that's almost a reflection of how I see myself. Started connecting dots. Like, nah, I don't even want to say nigga no more. I don't want to refer to my cat. So I'm like, that's why I be saying God.
Oh, yeah,
or
for
brother,
sure.
You know, or like, you not get mad, like, man, this brother going to tell me, like, it's rare. I'd be like, man, this nigga going to, it's now, like, since
it had to be justified.
Yeah, now with the pandemic, I started slipping, but I even been telling myself, like, bro, you got to tighten back up.
Wait a minute.
The pandemic, you know.
What about the pandemic, bro? Thinking back up,
bro. You start creating cracks in your armor, bro. Chinks in the armor, like,
what
I gotta repair that. Put the weld glasses on, like.
What about the pandemic brought the niggas out back?
Because, bro, you start seeing the real. You know, bro. You know how.
Yeah.
Bro, I was shouting from the rooftops before this money came down. Like the pandemic thing. I talked to you about, like, this whole, you know, the great equalizer, great levelers.
Yeah.
And this being a great leveling event where it really reset the clock. And more of our businesses closed than anybody else's businesses, and more of ours won't reopen than anybody else's businesses. We got all the money that we got, and most of it was scam money. And if it wasn't scam money, we blew it.
For sure.
Other people are up. The reason the stock market is up is because these businesses are up. We are not up.
Right.
We had a quick little hiccup,
Yeah.
and then plummeted back down. Now people are on a run, getting chased. And, you know, the feds all done made it clear, like, we coming for that ass.
Yeah. And Biden opened it up. He said, you know what? I'm going to extend the time we can come get y'all.
Absolutely. They
sure.
coming for that. So I'm like, y'all think it was cool? I was telling guys, like, bro, don't be on no bull. Just like with the money now with the student loans, people joking like, oh, you best believe I ain't using mine on that. If they find out you misappropriated that,
yep,
they coming for that. Like, believe me, when you don't get your tax return 2 or 3 years in a row, don't be surprised. Like, well, damn, what, bro? You misappropriated the money they gave you to pay off your student loans you've been complaining about.
Right.
You ain't go bought some dumb shit. Like, now, if you, I'm not saying do this, I'm not condoning, but if you took and invested it and it paid off and you made the money back, okay, I'm not condoning that, but I'd understand. But if you just going to buy that, like, by spending on depreciating assets or straight up liabilities,
yeah,
I'm like, I'm sick. That's when I say to niggas, like, what the fuck are we doing, bro? Like,
that's when you can say niggas right there.
What the fuck are we doing, bro? Like, we talking about how broke we are, and they ain't do nothing for us, and we got all types of things we can flip and twist and tweak and use to our advantage. And that's
Absolutely.
my argument. It don't matter who the fucking is in office.
Do you know how many arbitrage businesses that you can start just with your cell phone? But all right, so back to the story, right? So at the part of the story where you have try to outsmart everybody when it comes to going to college.
Absolutely.
How were you in turn outsmarted?
So I had this, second highest score in the ACT, scored higher than the salutatorian, and people was like, I remember it was one young lady, one of the teachers asked me to be the MC for the baccalaureate, and she's like, "Why would you let him do that? He's an idiot." And I'm like,
"Oh wow,
love, like, do you do know that you scored a 19 on your entire ACT?" I scored damn near 30 on my ACT. I'm like, this teacher knows what I have the capacity to do, my speaking abilities. Like, but why would you try to like dig at me because she don't want you to be the MC? But it was like, okay, cool. So I'm thinking like, I'm good. I got this ACT score. I get into any college I want to go to. They're not gonna care about my GPA. I didn't even know what my GPA was.
Right.
Come to find out, it was a 1.8.
Oh, ouch. Yeah.
Because I was literally just making sure I did enough to pass. I'm gaming the system. Like, I'm trying to be right there to 2.0 and know that I'm gonna get accepted to all these schools and whatnot.
Right,
It's
but
not doing the bare minimum.
But in high school, it goes off your junior year, not your senior year.
Not only that, but then all the scholarships require more than the bare minimum.
Okay.
So I qualified for the ACT score, SAT score requirement of scholarships and grants and all that. I didn't on the GPA minimums.
Oh, okay.
So I couldn't get any money outside of financial aid, straight up financial aid, to pay for school. And so my dad had popped back up and decided he wanted to be back in our lives, like the last couple of years of our, high school experience. And it was like, okay, I'm gonna get a student loan.
Now pop back up in what capacity? Is he back with mom or he
No,
just
not at all. Mom
okay,
was
okay.
like, hell no. Nah. He's just kind of like, and I'm even like, bro, it's kind of too late for you to, be my dad, but we can try to build like a friendship and see. But I'm kind of like at the point where I'm not. You can't really be like, it can't be like that. What you thinking it's about to be like.
What were some of the things that you got a chance to see up close now that he's back? And you know what I'm saying? You're older now.
Yeah.
I mean, like last time you saw him kind of like roughly was when you was 3 years old, maybe some little bits and pieces in there. But what was it like now to be a little bit into your manhood a little bit and you get a chance to look at him with fresh eyes? What were some things that, when you saw?
I've always was that person that was like, I believe the third side to the story, what really happened based off of what each side is saying happened and taking my better judgment and coming together like, okay, this is what sounds like, just like a judge would do.
Right.
But I'm like, that's judgment. Like, listening to both sides. You can't be biased on either side. So I learned and understood that as a kid. So my dad was talking about how much more difficult my mom made it when he was trying to step up and be dad and would get that fire under him, because he was like, it wasn't that I didn't want to be there. You know that your mom can be hell to deal with. And I'm like, yeah, straight Leo energy. She is ferocious. Like, she's the type where no man's ever put their hands on her. And my dad, like the one time that he kind of did, like there was a situation and he was scared. Like every man she's been with was scared of her. Like she was on some ferocious, like did all kinds of crazy stuff. The stories is ridiculous. I could have another 2 hours talking about all the stories.
Right.
The things she's done to men where she's just like, they was just like, you are crazy. But for some reason they kept going for it. And I'm like, it taught me like, this is not the kind of woman I want as far as how she treats men. But it was because she had her own trauma from her upbringing, and so she had no trust, and she had a hatred and a fear and all that good stuff, and so I understood more for her too. But with my dad, he's like, your mom makes it difficult because she tries to use you all as a way to leverage to try to get back with me, or try to like make me like try to rekindle it. And I'm saying it's over with. I just want to be there for my kids, but she's using you all as chess pieces, and it's kind of like, well, if it's not gonna basically be me, or you have to come to my house again, where he'd be like, well, meet me at a restaurant so I can meet you, so it's not no stuff, and you acting all like, I don't want to deal with none of that. So she'd be like, no, you got to come to my house. And so he was like, she made it very difficult. And I was just like, knowing my mom and how she was, like, because she was in her attempt to protect us and me being a young man, and she did the same thing with my brother, young boy, a boy, and my brother, a boy. She used physical, like capital punishment. And sometimes it was a little bit too much because she's trying to strike the fear of God in us from her. So whatever she said, I mean, the same mindset is like the plantation thing. Like she was taking that mindset too.
Right.
But it was like, I don't want you all to go out and do anything. So if I tell you don't go off the porch, my family and friends still joke about it to this day about how I wasn't allowed off the porch when she wasn't home until I was 16 years old. Dang. Like when she was at work, I wasn't allowed. Once I got home from school, if I wasn't at sports or whatever, like I couldn't leave and just be out in the neighborhood. And my family jokes about it, but all the family jokes about it, like they all got records, they all been in and out, like they, I have family members that's dead, like all that.
Who was right?
So I'm like, again, it sucked as a kid because it's like I'm hearing it's like, damn, you lame, where you can't even come off the porch. You know, I'm like, damn near my mom's like, okay, it's like if you in the yard, the kids come and play in the yard. They're like, we're not just trying to stay in your little yard, bro, and play with us. Like my mom, man, he's like, well, bro, that's your problem. But all those kids is out there, bro, jacked up. A lot of them are locked up. A lot of them are dead. A lot of them ain't doing nothing with their lives. They don't know what to do. They not doing anything necessarily bad, but they just have stagnated. And I'm like, man, my mom really had the formula. Like, I don't agree with all her approaches, like some of the physical nature of her, you know, her trying to protect us. It was like, yeah, some of it was a little bit too much, but I'm like, but at the end of the day, look where I'm at.
Exactly.
And so it's like, it's hard to like, I don't want to do that with my children. I don't plan to do it. I'm actually pledging not to do it. I'm thinking of other ways. But I'm like, I feel like it's a different way that you can do it. She had a lot of anger from her childhood, her upbringing. And so I understand. And I've been able to give her grace, my dad grace. Like my mom said, you know, in regards to my dad's father, I've never met either one of my grandfathers.
Yeah.
I don't know their names. I just found the name of my grandfather on my dad's side last summer from my dad's brother, my uncle. But years ago, I'd asked my mom, like, you know, what's the deal with, you know, your dad? She's like, you know, I'd never known him. Like my grandmother never knew who my mom's dad was. They kind of had an idea, but it was like no paternity test ever happened, nothing like that. But on my dad's side, my mom said she asked my paternal grandmother, my dad's mom, one time, like, you know, about his father, my grandfather, and she was like, if you think Gilbert is bad, his dad is the devil. Like, literally, you should be glad you've never met him.
Wow.
And apparently he was a really, you know, really fucked up person. And so my grandmother told her, like, you don't want them to meet him. You don't want to meet him. It's just best if you don't. You know, I don't even want to give you his name. So you think you want to reach out to him. Like, you don't want to be associated with that man. Right. And so it was like that type of dynamic where it was like, okay, so I don't know either one of my grandfathers. My dad's not there. I'm like, they're literally like, I've had moments where I've really been emotional, been like, you know, have cried in the most recent past, even like maybe 6 or 7 months ago, just like at the idea of like, man, and all the stuff that I'm carrying in my life. I have my older brother, but it's not the same, even though he's like a father figure, not having a father that has good sense or a lineage of grandfathers. Like, so I can't say that I have had men who my mom has basically taken on as like father figures who have been like a grandfather to me or a father to me, but they've all like, you know, kind of passed away, you know, or like are older, incapacitated, but just not having that voice of a person who's like that one person. It's like, I understand, like, man, this is heavy sometimes to do what I'm doing and not have an older man that is, you know, that has imbued this in me so he gets what I'm doing, where I've had to go and get this on my own.
Right.
So it's like I have to find the people who become my new family and my tribe.
Exactly.
I don't necessarily have that support within my like blood relatives. You know, so it's been just like surreal doing this work, because it's like, man, I started out doing it because of things I saw happening in my family, like things like people working, slaving, or people in the streets because they don't have no options, and it's like none of them really give a damn. I mean, they will once it's jumping, like anybody's family would, like a Kanye or, you know, a Ye, or, you know, respectively, or anybody would. But it's like, man, I understand why people go into like, you know, I'm not messing with these people or these people. It's like, because, man, I've worked so hard to do this, and the only thing you've done is try to kind of undermine it.
Right. So walk us through what happened with your dad and why were you pretty much done with him.
So he popped back up, like I said, and it was like, you know, yeah, we gonna, you know, get this loan from GE for your job, for your career, for your college career, and like really get you out here and get that on the path, because I understand the value of education. I got my master's in engineering. I want to help with this. I know, you know, yeah, I've been paying child support. I'm done with that now that you're 18, but I want to still, you know, be there to support you, because I have it like that.
How'd you feel in that moment for him to say that?
It was like, man, damn, this might actually work out. Like, he actually might do this. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he might actually kind of redeem himself a little bit, taking this, you know, initiative and not being, you know, coerced by the state, compelling him to do this by law. Like, this is, okay, maybe he's turning a new leaf. And, you know, it was like he's giving me the play-by-play as time is going on. Like I think it was like my senior year, he started that whole dialogue, and he started giving me the updates, like, okay, I've applied for it. Okay, they're giving it to me, yada, yada. And it was all lining up with, like, you know, me going on a Black college tour in the South during my junior year with a program called End Zone. Shout out to Miss Deborah Scales. You know, she used to do a program where she would take Black kids from all the high schools in the area. If you paid the money, they had chaperones and all that good stuff, but they would take them on a college tour. They would go 1 year through the South, you know, Black colleges, another year through like the North, you know, kind of ones on the East/North.
What one of your favorite colleges that you stopped at?
The one I was gonna go to, Tuskegee.
Tuskegee.
That campus, bruh.
What'd you love about the most?
It was, I could see it being like a different world. Like when I was there, I'm like, this. I had already understood the context of HBCUs, but I'm like, this is the one, because we went to Alabama A&M, we went to like Morehouse, Spelman, and Clark. We went to Langston University. We went to Lemoyne Owens. Like we went to like a bunch of Alabama State. Like we hit FAMU, I think.
Oh, wow.
We in 1 week, we probably went to like 12 colleges, HBCUs, bro. Like they literally had us like awake, asleep on the bus. Like we was on a tour, like on some music stuff. Like, oh, we here for a day, and then we get right on the road to go here.
I'm here
before the sun go down.
I'm here for a good time, not a long time.
Exactly. But it was just like, we want you all to be able to expose yourselves, walk through the campus. We got, ambassadors here that's going to walk you around and talk to you. And I got to Tuskegee campus. I'm like, this is where I'm going to school at.
Right.
So I applied, got accepted, couldn't get scholarships, got everything except $10,000 of my need met from financial aid. So my dad was like, okay, cool. I'm going to get the financial aid. I'm going to get a loan for $10,000. And so it's like, cool. So, they had designed my dorm, assigned me with my dorm mate, talked to him the entire summer, had all the stuff, on the list I need to have to bring down with me to move in, had my class schedule, like, everything pretty much done. Mom had rented the car. Like we had packed everything up, talked to dad the night before. I'll see you at 9 a.m. in the morning with the check. Mom's like, when he gets here with the check, it's like a baton. You take the check. We get him right in the car and shooting down the road. Like he's getting on the highway to go south to Cincinnati. We going down south to Tuskegee. Like done deal. It's going down.
Right.
Next morning came, get up, all we good, brush teeth. I'm like, I'm out this mug. I can't believe, like, whoo,
everything
already,
you,
bro.
packed.
Like we out.
Yeah.
We out. 9 a.m. We out. Okay, it's 9:05. Pop's kind of late, Aim is 9:15. Like he still ain't called yet. Like, I mean, is he normally a late person? You for real? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's like 9:30 and then 10 and then 11 and 12 and 5 p.m. And then the next day came and went. And the third day, and I'm blowing his phone up, just no response, nothing. And I'm like, and the third day, Mom's was just like, we'll go unpack the car. I guess you go to Sinclair. And it was like, I remember just staring out the screen door, being like, I was almost out this raggedy motherfucker, bro. Not the house, my mom's house or anything. I just mean out of Dayton. Like, I'm almost out this raggedy ass city. I was almost out. All my homeboys, like from that college tour, one of them's going to Kentucky State, one is going to Hampton, one is going to Tennessee State. One is going to, I think, Alabama State was his plan. Like, everybody's, like, we all went on this college tour, so we all knew we all going to these black colleges. We hitting each other like, bro, he's jumping up here now. My HBCU jump. I'm the only one in the crew that's not leaving now. Like,
how'd you feel in that moment, man?
I tell people it hurt so bad that I didn't feel anything. I remember thinking, like, I don't know how to feel. Like, how do you feel this? I remember thinking in my head, like, what is this supposed to feel like? Like, I don't even know how to express this feeling without my mom thinking I lost my mind. Like, I don't know how to, like, I was just like, I'm confused because I don't know what to do here. Like, I don't know what, like, crying ain't gonna do fucking things. What the fuck I'm about to cry for? Like, I didn't cry. I didn't do anything. I just remember thinking to myself, like, okay, I went into like straight damage control mode. I remember looking at the screen door, looking at the rental car, and I was like, all right, let me take stock of my options. Most of my family, all the men in my family, except for my brother, are in the streets for the most part. So I could easily go do that. And I remember thinking to myself, like, and I could use that as justification when anybody's like, damn, bro, you used to be the smartest dude in class. What the fuck are you doing? It's like, man, my dad stole my loan money. Fuck you. Like, I knew I could be that. I could be on that. Like, and I remember thinking to myself, like, but nah, my brother for real would strangle me. My mom would strangle me. Like, they're not going to let me get away with that. But I'm like, I'm not just trying to work a job like them because, yeah, that's cool. If I did do it, I had to have something else because I see that ain't got them out their situation. And I got to figure out something else. And mind you, so another pivotal moment in high school, I got to go back. While I was in high school at Colonel White, Dr. Boyka Tway, who was a professor down at Sinclair. Tway. Yeah. So he was coming to Colonel White.
Yeah, he one of my OG.
He was dropping jewels. He had a program called Able. He was coming into the school and meeting with the young men who were kind of like the kind of outstanding young man, regardless if you were an athlete, if you were popular because you were best dressed, or you like the local trap god or whatever, or like you was the one who was like on the nerd side, or whatever your connection was. If you were like kind of like the de facto leader of like one of the cliquey groups of like the school, which I was like the outsider, right? Everybody was like, bro,
that was like the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Yeah. But I was the outsider where it's like everybody's like, he's smart, but he doesn't have good grades. he's a beast at sports, but he doesn't play sports anybody like because, I ran track, but I did the 8, 16, 32, and 64.
I ran
So
long
everybody was
distance
like,
too, man.
nobody
It's
gave
too
a
many
fuck about it.
similarities, man.
Bro, it's crazy. But it shows up how you can endure and like everything, bro. So I'm like, I had these characteristics that these other people, these adults could see, like, you're an outlier, but I still didn't know what to do with it. And so I knew from Tway's tutelage and the game he was instilling in the knowledge of self that he was bringing us to, I wanted to do liberation work. So I was going to a HBCU, like, I'm gonna go down there. I don't want to protest and be picketing. I'm like, I knew I didn't want to do no shit like that. I'm like, I want to really.
Your fight was a different fight.
I want to do it different. I want to do it where it's scalable and can really change something. I'm like, but I don't know what that looks like. And so when my pops stole with loan money, I remember looking out the door and thinking like, yeah, the streets ain't gonna work. The job thing, yeah, I might do it, but I'm not just about to depend on that and get 30 years in and retire. No, I'm like, I ain't no way I'm signing up for that shit. That's crazy. I'm not going to the military. I considered it, but I'm like, this is right when like all the stuff with 9/11 and then I'm like, when I was in high school, I thought about going to the Marines just to try to toughen myself up. I was just some like, let me bulk up and get the mindset and like just go through. But I decided like if there's some war stuff going on, I'm not trying to go. I'm just trying to go and get the basic training and get like that part.
Right.
Test myself, and if nothing else, that give me the, I can go and get, pay for school.
It'll be your 1 versus 1 training, like again, where it's a solo sport, just going in. You feel me? I'm testing myself.
Absolutely, and really stepping into this manhood, like jumping. I'm like, Marines is the one. I'm gonna jump all the way in. Glad I didn't do that. Because I'd have been fighting somebody else's war for some shit that was like some you can get that conspiracy.
Yeah.
So I knew the military. I'm like, that's 3 strikes. I'm out. I'm like, I keep hearing about this entrepreneurship thing. Now, mind you, when I'm doing the CD stuff and all that, I didn't know that that's what that was.
Right.
I didn't have any language around. I was just doing something to supplement a need I had. I'm like, I keep hearing people talk about this entrepreneurship thing. I'm like, I know it means that you get to do your own thing, but like, how do people do that shit? Like, I remember standing in this door. I'm thinking all this in the door after my mom said that whole thing, and I realized like I'm really about to be here. I'm going through the options. I'm like, this entrepreneurship thing, like I know it means freedom. I know enough to know that they do what they want to do. So I'm just about to figure that shit out. A lot of them end up not going to school. I keep hearing shit like that about it. So I'm gonna figure that shit out. Like I'm gonna do that. And it's like, but how do I do that? And so that fall, when I was supposed to be away at college, I ended up hearing about prepaid legal.
Prepaid legal. Okay.
And they end up telling us, here's a book list. First book we want you to read is this new book that's only been out a few years called Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah.
I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and the light bulb went off. And I was like, hold on. These 4 areas, real estate, credit, the financial markets, and starting businesses like business ownership or acquiring businesses, like these are the 4 areas that build wealth. I understand this Dead Prez Liberation RBG thing that Dr. Tway is sharing with us at in my high school. So I want to do liberation work by using these mechanisms of wealth, learning them, reverse engineering them. And I remember telling myself, like, I'm going to put myself through my own MBA program. I'm going to spend 3 to 4 years in each one of these areas and practice them. Like studying while I'm learning, like I'll kind of dabble in these other 3, but I'm going to be solely focused. And 75% of my focus, 80% on this one thing. If it's real estate, it's real estate for 3 or 4 years. If it's credit for 3 or 4 years. Like, and I'm going to give it my all. And once I get enough to where I'm like, a baby Jedi master with it, then I'm going to move on to the next one. And once I get all 4 of them completed, I'm going to create something that's going to be an answer to the fact that I believe that the reason we're in the situation we're in as a people is because of the economic. Like I had done this analysis, critical analysis. It's like, the question I asked is, what's the one area that these white supremacists, these racist motherfuckers have the most harshest reaction to whenever we really do? Because it's like they really don't care if we like protest and shout and cry and all that good stuff. And I start looking at all the historical instances where they commit the most atrocities, like the Selma, the bus boycotts, and like, Black Wall Street, and even with slavery. And it was like, hold on, those are all economic things.
Yeah. So
whenever we do something with their pockets, that's when they trip. So what if I figure out these wealth mechanisms and use this shit in reverse engineer capacity to create a system of liberation? Because this is the area they seem like they got to scared us to deal with, because that's the area that's going to have the most impact to their system. So I'm just about to do that. I'm about to just figure this shit out, put myself through my own MBA program. It's going to be a long road, but I'm going to spend it. Like I said, I'm going to spend it. And after I get done, I'll figure out whatever system I'm creating to give it back to the people. I didn't know what I was creating at the time was what is now Trep House.
Right.
That was 19 years ago. I gave myself 16 years at that point to complete all 4 of those areas. I started building Trep House at about the 16, 17 year mark, and still wasn't even remembering that for real and connecting those dots, but had made, I think it was because that was such a galvanizing moment, kind of like it was such a paradigm shifting moment for me. I internalized that, and through everything I've been, I've lived in different places. I've walked the journeys. I've traded Forex since 2005. I've written a book on it. I've been on the credit thing since right after high school. I started buying ebooks and stuff when it wasn't like in 2003, when there wasn't a way to just search for this stuff. And there was ebook repositories. Again, you had to know how to go on these ICR chat rooms and find where they were storing this at, what server it was. You had to type in the FTP server address and all that stuff. Like I was on all that, digging, like literally crate digging for information for all these mechanisms of wealth as I understood them from Rich Dad Poor Dad. I then also went through every series, every book in his entire catalog, everything, the guide to investing, cash flow quadrants, the guide to real estate investing, like all that, everything that he had, the corporate trust stuff, all the stuff that he had in there, like the tax stuff, everything. And then I started getting more books on business and just like, okay, first area I want to focus on is going to be real estate. My brother kept telling me like real estate is the area people have money who are wealthy are practicing in, but I thought he meant real estate agent. I didn't know he meant real estate investing. And then I saw one of the infomercials with the two little, it was two twin brothers. They're both little people though. They always had the slick back hair. They had Ferraris and the skinny white chicks in the bikinis. But they had like, you pay $99, come to this webinar, a seminar in person. There wasn't no webinars yet. Come to this seminar in person. And, you pay $99, we'll give you this big binder with all the info and all the different strategies for real estate investing. And I saw that and I'm like, this is what my brother's talking about with the real estate investing thing.
That part,
real estate. He's not talking about real estate agent. This investing thing where people buy houses. And I had always as a kid been like, how come these houses in our neighborhood be abandoned but nobody move into them?
Right.
I was asking the question, but nobody ever had an answer. I saw that infomercial. I'm like, this is how I can buy the houses in our hoods that nobody apparently wants, where people are living right next to, and now we can create our own. What are we doing?
Right.
Why ain't nobody spending $99 to go get this information? Like I'm
right.
really as a kid just like naive, but at the same time like I'm gonna go do it. So I'm the only black person, the only kid in this thing. All these white folks looking like, who the fuck is this 18-year-old kid? Like I'm 18, 19 years old, popping in this thing, paid the $99. Like I had to save for my job for like 2 pay periods that had a $99 to pay for this course. I get there, it's this big ass binder with like maybe 30 pages in it.
Get out of here.
And it's maybe like 3 or 4 pages on each type of real estate investing technique, like, subletting, flipping, wholesaling.
Was it any was it worth $99
for me?
And what you got out of it?
It was because it was like from there I just got online. I found a website called REI Club and REI Place. And it was back when forums only had text. There was no images. So I would just be pouring through hours and hours and hours and hours reading these texts.
Using those terms that was inside of that one binder you got. You're like, okay, now I know the lingo.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I know the protocol.
I was zigzagging my way forward, getting pieces. Then I ended up going to a GD RIA meeting. Again, this is 2003, 2004. I met a black lady who basically she was older, like probably like middle age, like probably like 35, 40. But she was just getting into it. She had just went to a seminar like that, and she was like, I'm just trying to find my way. Again, we the only black people in the GD RIA. Nobody black was going down there. So she was like, how old are you? I'm like 19. She's like, this is amazing. I've never talked to a 19-year-old that this, that this is what they're trying to do at 19. Like, well, my dad sold my loan money, so I'm kind of here by like, chance, but let's get into it. So we would go down to the library. This is before, what's that called? Everything everybody goes to for like real estate now, the website that everybody goes to, Better Pockets.
Okay.
None of that existed. Google, like being able to list stuff on Craigslist, none of that existed. Again, 2004, we were still like classified ads in the newspaper. And you just call people in the classified ads that are trying to sell their houses because that's where they list houses at. There was no online listings.
Right.
You couldn't go online and go to some realtor's website and look at like you had to either go get a pamphlet or like, maybe they kind of started having websites then, but if you didn't have a high-speed internet, the images, you couldn't see the pictures. They
maybe
were
going down getting like a divorce list from the
pretty
county
much,
kind of
you
thing.
had to do all the groundwork type stuff. There was like Drive for Dollars, right? Like handwrite.
Prop Streams, one of my favorite.
Prop Streams, see, that wasn't even out back then for me.
Yeah, of course it was.
2003, 2004.
Yeah, like that's new era.
Yeah, I'm going to say, brother, none of that existed, bro. So we'd just be sitting there cold calling people from like they classified ad in the newspapers every week. Like every time the newspaper came out, every day we would made a routine like, okay, today you call 25, I call 25. Like we was doing it like that, just straight on the grind, going and knocking on doors, driving for dollars, all that stuff. And so then I end up moving to Atlanta just because my cousin was like, I'm like, I need to get the hell out of Dayton. There's nothing here. Like this is when it was just a GM town. If you ain't going working the GM, you need to be on base. If you ain't on base, you just working a dead-end job. If you ain't trying to do that, get the hell out of here. Like,
Right.
so I'm like, hey, cuz, I just need to get gone. I had tried to go to I had tried to go to Hampton with my one homeboy, and I tried to go to TSU with my other homeboy. Got approved, got accepted to both of them. Couldn't pay for it again, financial aid. Like, my mom's credit was terrible. Obviously, my dad's not in the picture. I didn't talk to him for it. I think I called to talk to him 6 months later after all that happened, and he was just kind of like, what's good? And I'm like,
Did you ever get an explanation?
yeah, he told me that. I was like, he called one day just out the blue, just like, hey, what's going on? I'm like, what do you mean what's going on? He's like, what you mean? I'm like, you do know that you were supposed to bring $10,000 here. He was like, you talking about the money that I had to pay back? And I was like, yeah, it was a loan for my education. He was like, boy, that was my money. You should have got your GPA up so you could have paid for it. That's on you. He was like, I borrowed that money. I got to pay it back. So I decided that I was going to do what I wanted with it. So I'll be honest with you. I went to Las Vegas and I gambled and smoked and drank it away and basically paid for prostitution, strip clubs. Like, and I was like, are you serious? He was like, boy, that's my money. Figure it out. It's your duty. I paid my way through school. You got to do the same thing. I'm like, but you got a loan from your job under the auspice of paying for my education. He's like, and I'm the one that has to pay it back. So I can do whatever I want with that money. So I'm like, okay,
what did you
cool.
learn in that moment about business?
It really fucked me up until really just this past spring. I just had a breakthrough going through a program where I remember thinking in that moment, if my own dad would steal money from me to escape the cesspool that is Dayton, Ohio, having a master's degree himself, so understanding the importance of education, if something like these vices would cause him to steal that from me and then be able to justify it in his mind, what would anybody else do for money? So anything that anybody tried to do that involved money with me, I was always distrusting, like, you're just going to find a way to steal it from me. So no, I'm not even going to let you try to pay me for the skills that I have, the knowledge I have, or experience I have. So for all these years, I've been fighting. People would get on me like, bro, why can't you tell me a number when I asked you what you want me to pay you? And it was because I hadn't figured out. I remember telling myself, I don't ever want to be like my dad because he's a rich asshole. I was grouping the rich part in with the asshole part. I wasn't separating it. So I decided, like, oh, if you're rich, you have to be an asshole. But I'm also practicing entrepreneurship. I'm successful. I'm good at what I do. But I always found a way to keep myself from ever rising and having this status because that's all he cared about. He coveted the stuff and the money. He bragged about it, like, you wish you was as smart as me. Your mom, she barely has a high school education. It's y'all's fault that y'all are in a position that y'all are poor because your mom didn't understand the value of education. I'm like, but you stole. Many times we talked, I'm like, but you stole my loan money. Again, that was my money. I paid for my schooling. You need to get it like I did. I worked hard to get the stuff I have. So you're just jealous because you don't have it. I'm like, are you serious? How can you say that your son is jealous of you?
So I want to ask, like, is this his moment of grandeur after he tried to derail y'all living situation, failed? He sees you about to go to college, and now he's like, well, I can mess that up to
because somebody I mean, I don't know if they did him the same way, but he was basically like, he didn't go to college until he was 24, 25 because nobody was there to pay for it. So in his mind, it's like, I had to go through it. And we hear that from OGs all the time. Like, well, I had to go through it like this. You need to pay dues the same way, young buck, and maybe you appreciate it. And it's like we create this trauma. We repeat this trauma artificially to think that it means it's going to toughen you up. Instead of like teaching with love, we had to teach with like the crack of the whip on our back, the proverbial crack of the whip on our back, and split our skin open to be like, now maybe you understand that I love you. And it's like, because we keep operating in this trauma response for us to learn things, we justify the death culture and the sipping lean and all this good stuff. Like, oh, will it create? Somebody asked me one time, I was in this group locally here with, some local famous poets. And again, I don't know if I want to name drop people, but they were doing like a healing circle.
The flying poet thing?
No, not the flying poet thing. Okay. It was with Kiana and Reggie before Kiana moved to St. Louis. They were doing this healing circle, like they were doing a test run of it. They were trying to expand and make it bigger, but it was just getting Black professionals together to like talk about things like our upbringing with our parents and how that's informed how we operate as adults and things like that. And one time they were asking, like, it was a conversation about Black culture, and they posed a question. They would pose questions every time based off the subject. And Reggie was like, we posing a question, y'all. Like, the topic is like, what is Black culture? Like, we just want you to almost basically like write like 2 words, 3 words, just a quick, just something short. And everybody paused, and I was like, beautiful pain. And everybody was like, oh. And they was like, I think we know where you're going with that, but explain that. I'm like, literally, our culture has become something that we believe that it can't be beautiful without the pain. So we almost demand that pain is involved.
Wow.
In order for the beauty to be created, like the blood spatter becomes a work of art.
Mm.
Like we literally, like the chalk outline becomes, you know, a Bansky, you know, wall hanging. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like we really look at this stuff as like, you know, yo, the jewels, all this stuff, rubbing it in people's faces. It's my custom piece, but my neighborhood is still fucked up. But I made it, and I'm going back and giving turkeys away for Thanksgiving. But y'all got to know, I was down there with y'all. I'm still one of y'all, but it's not my duty to take care of y'all or do anything to create systems besides performative things on the surface. So I keep the press, you know, the PR good, the public relations good. And like that's where we are, is like it's all rooted in like, you know, I almost have to rap about my homeboy dying or me shooting or killing somebody. I have to rap about death culture for people like, man, he real, because people got proof that he really living like that. But it's like, where's the support? It's now, it's a, you know, it's a time when like Kendrick and J. Cole and all them can exist and thrive. But you know, the golden era of hip hop was in the mid 90s, late 90s, and it's considered like, you know, these past, like they've been saying hip hop has been dead since the 2000s. For real. So it's like we still are like, it's just gotten deader and zombified and chopped up and turned into Dracula, and a werewolf is turning into all the monsters on the unholy dead side. And it's like we not seeing that it's been co-opted, because that sells. Trauma sells. People like the young people was talking about how they looked at the video of bro dying, take off dying, and I'm like,
I'm not even watching.
I didn't watch it. I'm like, I didn't watch that. I'm like, now whenever the cops kill a brother, I watch that.
Yeah.
Because I want to internalize that. I want that fuel to remind me and be like, bro, this is what's going on. Anytime the cops are right past, I'm in my rearview mirror looking like, damn, are they about to turn around? Because I tell myself like, this really could be the end, all because I got, you know, some roaches in the car.
Right.
Not doing nothing. I'm out here, productive member of society, not fucking with nobody, and I know my life still can end. No matter what the fuck I'm wearing, no matter what the fuck I'm driving, no matter who the fuck I know, what the fuck I say, they still will kill me, because it's my belief and my experience, the KKK has infiltrated the police force and the judges. And it's going to sound like some yay crazy shit, but it's documentaries on this shit I can refer people to that talk about the whole, they went under the blue badge, you know, the blue shield and the robe. And that's where the KKK exists now. So the policies that they put out.
I mean, to me, it never
ended.
wasn't that, because if you talk about like the whole slave catcher stars, the same one the sheriff wear today.
All KKK, that's what I'm saying. It's all the same thing. So I'm like, we aren't looking at these things and we think that all this stuff is by coincidence, but I'm like, no, everybody recognizes that some of the most beautiful work comes from the most painful situations.
Absolutely.
And they keep us in pain because we create the most beautiful things, but we never control the intellectual property. We never control it. So therefore they own our creativity, all because of their system they have set up and the system they have to support it. If we don't agree with it after we sign into it, and really they're like, oh no, we can just take your whole estate. Like you missed this line in here.
That's one part that I still struggle with is, how are you a billionaire? These are already contracts you've already signed. You've already mastered. If you are a billionaire, how can you lose your billions if you already had contracts in place? I mean, I'm pretty sure they wrote some clause in there, but it don't make sense how you was a billionaire and now you're not a billionaire. That's the last thing I want to say about Ye, because we're definitely here to talk about bro.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is like, I think it's brilliant what he's doing. People are like, oh, he's crazy. I'm like, but he's getting out those contracts without it having to go to court. Right. They're walking away from it. He's creating a situation where he's making it like he's so off base. To them, it's like we want to walk away. But I told people like, I believe even what he's doing and what happened with him and his mom, like somebody was saying like, you know, what do you think it is? I'm like, his mom was his sounding board. His mom was his Jiminy Cricket. She was the only person that could reel him in, and that was a blessing and a curse. She did that to have that strong solidarity with him, the same way my mom used fear, the fear of God, to keep us on the porch. She used love and just coddling him and just building this super confidence where he didn't want to be around nobody else but his mom. And then for him to feel like he is directly responsible for her death because his money's involved, when that's his sounding board, and now there's nobody that he can trust, because up to that point, everybody thought he was a weirdo. He talks about it. I can relate to Kanye because he talked about how he was a weirdo, the clothes he wore, how he dressed, the shoes from the flea market. Everybody's like, bro, you are weird, bro. Get away from us. Like, he was always on some loner shit, and the only person he had was his mom that really was fucking with his genius. I'm like, I think Kanye is on the spectrum. A lot of us are on the spectrum, black folks, and a lot of us have never been diagnosed, and a lot of us have had to adapt in black culture because it doesn't make room for that. My mom, I've been told that they're pretty sure ADHD is on the spectrum for sure, but all the way up to Asperger's, like, you know, where you're, you know, non-functioning, you know, autism, All that's on the same neurodivergent spectrum. Most black people are neurodivergent because of the trauma we've endured. Our minds have had to operate differently to survive what we've been going through all this time. So most black people are neurodivergent. They're somewhere on the spectrum, which is why they diagnose so many of us with ADHD. It's not that it's a problem. It's just another thing that they can use because we don't have anybody there that's in that space, because most of us controlled by the Jewish people. So now they can medicate us, make money off the pharmaceutical side. The medicated person now becomes just a loyal slave to their system. So now they're double dipping because they're getting this labor out of you that they're charging more for, and you not even there. You'd have been
They
stupefied.
monetizing every box they put you in.
What's the most prescribed drug in the United States? Antidepressants. Why are so many people depressed? Because so many people are living a life that they know they aren't supposed to be living. Because so many people choose slavery and they know they're choosing it and they don't know how to walk away from it. And that's white, black, Indian, it don't matter, Native American, the whole gamut. Anybody who's working in this country and not going for theirs, the reason that they're on antidepressants, the reason that they're using drugs or having to, go to the strip club or like all these vices, go and get their Casamigos or whatever every weekend is because they are not living up to their full potential, and their energy, their emotions are down, because that's the barometer to tell you, like, man, you're not on your path, bro. What is you doing? So when Kanye says we're choosing slavery, is because we refuse to embrace our full potential because we don't believe we can. We've been so beat down, we have no confidence that we believe we can, and how dare anybody else do it if we can't do it, and we can't understand why we can't do it. We just know there's something in us that won't let us do it. Right. We can see it, but it's like, but I don't deserve that. Now I can speak to that because I was fucking guilty of it myself. So I'm only speaking from what I came out of. And when he speaks about coming out, I'm like, I get, bruh, so fucking clearly. It's scary, and I be feeling bad for him. Like, bro, I'm being on the public stage. I've had to go through it just in Dayton, Ohio, and like this small, infinitesimally, insignificant life in the grand scheme compared to his. I can only imagine on that stage what you're doing as a futurist thinker, because he's a futurist.
Yes.
He's thinking in the future. To the people who are thinking in the past or the present, he's going to be crazy.
We support you, Yay. What is tell me the inception behind Design to Build.
So the whole why behind Design to Build is that, I was flipping houses. I was doing the real estate investing thing. I got into that full time back in 2012 with the goal of doing what I realized back in 2003 before I moved to Atlanta. I paused on real estate because I realized, like, okay, I got to learn more about this, no money down and how that really works. So I went back out the knowledge on credit. I started getting into the trading thing at that time. And then by the time I came back around to real estate in 2012, I moved back from Atlanta in 2008. And my brother had asked me to move back to help him with his real estate business because he had gotten into investing in that time. And he told me, like, before I left for Atlanta, give me some years, get my credit straight. I want to work with you. You've been out there doing the work. Let's partner up. But I'm like, I'm not trying to wait until you got your credit straight. I'm going to Atlanta. So while I was in Atlanta, he had ended up buying. This is right before all the crash happened. Right. He was like, every house I buy, if you're here, I'll pay you $5,000 to $10,000 depending on how much I pay for it on like the bird dog fee. And I'm like, man, yeah, right. You talking shit. Called me, got the first house, like that'd have been $5,000. A few months later, called me like, bro, I got the second house, that'd have been $10,000. Call me in third house, the fourth house. On the fourth house, I'm like, all right, nigga, bro. Let me go and come back to Dayton, bro. Quit playing with you, boy. Like, go shoot up back that way. So I done came back in 2008, walked away from the job, all that stuff I was working at down there.
What kind of job was you working down there?
Just working at Staples
okay.
in the business technology. So I done worked at the Staples in the business technology, Best Buy, T-Mobile, Verizon, H.H. Gregg. So I was always around technology, but I was in a retail capacity.
Right.
I wasn't crossing over until like, okay, I'm an actual technician in the field or, remote or whatever until like, I moved back from Atlanta and got into real estate and needed the job for the income and all that.
Okay.
So I was working jobs in technology.
So I did see in my research, you did 2 closings in one day. That's and I was like, man, it was the last major. You know what
Absolutely, absolutely.
So what was that like to go from, working a 9 to 5 in the capacity of, you working at a, you getting pennies compared to now.
Absolutely.
You are essentially remote closing on houses. What was that like now when you got like that type of money coming in, that type of, like you finally on the clean and narrow?
So it was bittersweet. It was sweet initially, but then became bitter on the back end, like a reverse Sour Patch Kid, because I was in that objective athlete mindset. So I was trying to get into businesses or ventures where I didn't need anybody else. That's why I got into trading. Mm-hmm. I can run an account by myself. I don't got to answer nobody. I don't got to do nothing. It's like, well, let me get some more money. I need to, go into real estate now that I understand it. get some houses, get some flow going, wholesale some stuff, and then take chunks of that and invest in my trading account, put in my trading account to, speculate in the financial markets.
Right.
So that was the plan. So that's what got me back into real estate, helping my brother. Like, I can see the play now. But the problem was, I was thinking like, oh, with all the systems and the softwares and all this stuff that exists, I can just create almost like a automated team. I don't need to work with anybody. So I was trying to keep the team as small and, as little as possible, which was really nobody else. But then I got overwhelmed with this amazing system I had. I had a great system, how I'm generating my leads. I was using Google Ads. I wasn't doing driving for dollars. I wasn't doing bandit signs. I wasn't doing anything. Every single deal that I got, somebody blew my phone up and begged me to take their house, because I ended up paying a marketing firm to do paid ad marketing for me. And they pick a territory. Whoever they end up getting signed up in any given territory, that's the only person to work with in that territory.
Wow.
So they don't create competition with other investors in your
They
territory.
monopolize that area.
So I had Dayton, Cincy, and Columbus jumping, bro. I'm getting deal flow galore. But the problem with it is, with those types of deal flow, situations, those leads are still after about 15 minutes, and they're really basically dead after an hour. You have to call those people as soon as they hit you up, because they're going down the list and the search results. When they Google "sell my house fast" in Dayton or "sell my house fast" in Ohio, they're going down the list of the search results and calling everybody, because they're desperate trying to sell this house at this point. So I was just knowing which keywords. The marketing firm was just knowing which keywords to target, writing the right, what do they call that, the right copy, the right ad copy and stuff to get people to click the link. And then the 2-step lead form, email address, or property address, and like email address or phone number. And then it's like, 2-step where it goes to this next one, like, what's all the details, and if you do that, we know you're really serious. And it's like, so I'm getting calls with all the details before I get on the phone with them. Like, it's literally fish in a bucket.
Right.
I can't get through the leads fast enough, so I'm burning up marketing dollars trying to call all these people, trying to go out to all the properties, do the walk through all the properties, set up the scope of work for all the properties.
Well, you could have been like, hey, I need some help.
Exactly. So I got taught a hard lesson, because I ended up fucking my credit up. I ended up messing up some money with some investors on the other side that I'm still like owing to this day, that they know with what you're doing now, we've been patient. I've worked it out to where they're like, we hold out as you get designed to build and you really get rolling. We see what you had to do when this comes to the territory. But I've had to have so many conversations with so many people about like, hey, this didn't work out because of this, because I was overwhelmed and I thought I could do it alone and I was mistaken, and this comes with the territory. But most black folks ain't trying to hear that. They're like, bro, what the fuck? Like,
I need my COD
I need my
cash
bread,
on
bro.
delivery.
I need my bread. So I'm like, okay, yeah. So I had to massage that. And that's some hard lessons I've learned. But it taught me, like, the team thing is everything. But in even having a team now with like Design to Build, like, I've learned how there has to be like real congruency in the culture and like the vision. Even if you have the best of intentions for somebody, if they don't really get it, want it, or have the capacity to really do it and be in on it, it can actually be detrimental. Even if like they have to get it, they get it and they want it, but they don't have the means to do anything to help it, or they don't get it. They want to get it. They want to see it happen, but they don't really see the real opportunity and have the capacity. If you're missing any one of those three, let alone any more than that, it's like you are setting yourself up for failure.
Right.
And so it's like I've learned a lesson, like, okay, no team is bad. Having a team and being more autocratic in the management isn't the best idea. It really has to be like, I start to understand why like a yay is a yay, or a Steve Jobs. Like, people talk about Steve Jobs, for example. And I'm not going to glorify, and be like, oh, people like, oh, because he's a white dude, you can find an example. I'm like, we could talk about Reginald Lewis. Reginald Lewis, the one who wrote Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun? Yeah. He was the first business for $1 billion, black-owned business to make $1 billion. Mm-hmm. They said dude was a animal as far as like his whole energy and demeanor. But it's like, I'm like, I don't know any really crazy people that are billionaires. Like, I do. We can say they're crazy. It can be eccentric or whatever. Yeah. But I'm like, people are like, yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. It's like, but if he's been crazy for the past 10 years, his worth has increased. Right. The crazier he's apparently gotten. You don't see a correlation with that. You wouldn't stop to maybe think so. Same with these other people, like, oh, Steve Jobs is a tyrant, Reginald Lewis is a tyrant. I started to understand more like the reason that these people ran things the way they did. The reason we have the iPhone is as beautiful as it is. The reason that we have the V8 engine is because Henry Ford told his workers, they was like, there's no way we can make a V8. He was like, y'all can't. He was like, but you're not an engineer. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. He was like, I may not be an engineer, but I got to understand enough to know y'all can do it. And if y'all don't want to do it, y'all can leave. Mm-hmm. I'll find somebody that can. And they was telling me, like, there's no way that can work mechanically. Like, it doesn't, like, it defies the laws of physics. Figure it out. I don't know how to do it. I know y'all can do it though.
Right.
That's why y'all here. We have the V8 engine today because somebody who didn't know how to do it necessarily was able to push that passion forward.
V12 now.
What'd you say? V12s, exactly.
V-dub.
People, I mean, Tesla, all these people, like, you know, people had these visions. Elon Musk, crazy eccentric motherfucker by all rights, but PayPal, people don't even know he made his money from PayPal and made a bunch of other billionaires who invested in him as a result of believing in that. And one time PayPal was like, people were like, you're not going to make money. Nobody's going to sign their credit card up online and buy stuff online. People told people, all these people, they were crazy every step of the fucking way. Yeah. Every single one of them. Your electric cars, you're going to sink your money and go broke trying to start an electric car company.
Yeah.
Nobody's
going to
rain
rain one day and the cars ain't going to run. All right, big dog.
Bro, every step of the way, nobody's going to want to do it.
You're going to go to a car wash with an electric car. All right.
Exactly. Nobody going to want to play for a 3-on-3 league when we already got the NBA. All right. Like, so these people had to be crazy. You had to be almost a little delusional to have a vision and see something as if it's right there and it consumes you. And I tell guys on my team, like, that's real entrepreneurship. When you want something so bad, you're trying to figure out a way for it not to fuck your life up because you're obsessed with it.
Yes.
Like, it's like being obsessed with the woman or, like, you know, whatever. Motorcycle, whatever. It's an obsession. Like, man, I cannot stop. Like, it's a drug.
Yes.
And it's like, man, like, your relationship's like, your girl, like, oh, you don't spend time with me no more. Your mom,
I'm spending time with my LLC, baby. That's what I'm doing.
I tell people, they like, you got any kids? I'm like, yeah, I got twins. They like, for real? Like, yeah. They like, what's the names? Trep House and Design to Build.
Say that.
And they laugh, and I be straight faced. Bro, I be right now. I be like,
yeah.
And they're like, oh, you serious? No, I'm serious, bro.
Word.
We really got twins, and I treat them as such. So no, I may not be able to come, just like you wouldn't come if your kid was playing soccer. I can't come and hang out and do that because I got to go to this meeting at like 8:00 at night. Yes. Yeah, and I'm excited about it. Like a PTA meeting. Yeah. Like I can't wait to go to this meeting for Design to Build today.
Right.
And talk to this person about this and that, about my little fledgling, eggling that's moving along. And that's what I was telling the team is like, it's not my thing. Like it's my baby. Like I own and control it. It's my thing. Like I obsess over it. And I'm cultivating like a gigapet. Like I want that thing to get to that point to where it's like, man, it then thriving, it's good. It can run on its own. And everybody is benefiting from it, and it's prosperous. I'm like, I'm not even seeking wealth anymore. I'm seeking prosperity. Yeah, wealth to me is very much so rooted in capitalism and is individualistic. Prosperity is more communal, and it's more like that Midas touch. Like I can make this gold, and I can make that gold, and I can make that gold, and we touching everything and making it gold. Matter of fact, here's the touch for yourself. Here's the blessing and curse with it. Go find out how good and how bad it can be, because it's not all sweet, and it's a lot to carry this weight. For sure. You know what I'm saying? So it's like that's my goal. Is like create the most millionaires and billionaires in our culture out of anybody in our history. And it's others who got the head start on me who are still doing it to this day. And I'm like, my goal is to do it through real estate, through credit, through the financial markets, and through business ownership, whether that's startup or acquisition, because all these are markets people are starting to kind of talk about, but I feel like a lot of them aren't really pushing it in a way to where they're creating the platform to actually get involved in it. You still have to go out, they'll give you the info and expose you to it, but you still got to figure out your own pipeline to tap into it.
So what made you choose trailers compared to log cabins, for example, right?
No doubt. Doubt.
What made you choose shipping containers?
So because they're so ubiquitous, containers are everywhere. Shipping containers are everywhere. They call them ISBUs, the technical term, but shipping containers are everywhere. Something like cargo container architecture just makes perfect sense. It's like, why, we can look at other types of building control technologies or like building systems, building materials, but my thing is we didn't have to buy special machinery. We had to deal with outside vendors in a more technical capacity than just making sure this container is straight, not rusted out, and doesn't have any hazardous material that's going to cause stuff to seep out and cause off-gassing and kill people 30 years from now from mesothelioma. Right. Like, with SIPs, like the structure insulated panels, like Boxable has, or, with like cross-laminated timber, people are building like stuff out of wood where it's like these pieces of timber that are glued together with this super expensive machine. And it's like something I want to get into. I want to look at all this ICFs, insulated concrete forms, where you pour concrete between styrofoam pieces look like big Legos and stack them up, make the outer walls. They have all these different approaches to doing what we're talking about doing as far as modular off-site building. Okay. But containers, to me, they're out there everywhere. There's people that are trying to give them away. There's groups. I was telling the team about that today. Like, they were like, well, where are we sourcing these from? I'm like, there's there's municipalities. The state of Cali, the governor in California actually declared a state of emergency when during the peak of the pandemic, when there was all those freight ships out at sea. They weren't going out as fast as they normally came in as far as the containers. So they were just piling containers up, almost like Tetris when you're not solving a puzzle fast enough and it's stacking up high. And they, like, the governor was like, anybody, some fucking body,
Somebody
you
go
can
get 'em.
have these containers. You just have to have somewhere to take them. You can't say you want them and then leave them here. You have to have somewhere to take it right now. But come and get them. We not charge you for them. Like, damn near, we'll pay you to come and get them. Get them gone. It's those types of situations still to this day that don't get put out there on the internet like, hey, free containers, because 99% of the world doesn't give a damn about a free container.
Shipping container,
Like,
right?
what am I about to do with that? But us,
Yeah.
we just getting tapped in on supply chain. So, like, they're ubiquitous. They're widely available. Like, they're everywhere. They're, plentiful. They're free in a lot of cases. They're the way that they're built and designed, they're over-engineered for living in because they're waterproof, fireproof, windproof, and bulletproof. Unlike these other building materials, like cross-laminated timber, you could argue is technically bulletproof, etc.
Yeah.
Concrete obviously is,
Right.
but concrete is steel and concrete is some of the most polluting building materials in the world. Concrete, I think, is number one, and still is like a close number two, if I'm not mistaken, because more concrete is made than steel.
Right.
Everything has to sit on concrete. So with that, steel, these containers are already built, so they're overtly sustainable because you're reusing something that's already been built. We aren't asking somebody to build the containers new. The other material we're doing, we're having to build new stuff and produce new waste to build it, to then use it for living in. Whereas containers, yeah, we have the metal that we can cut, we can repurpose, but the box is already built, and it's already built durably. It's also modular, which means you can you can add to it later on, and it's relocatable, which means you can move it. So you can start with one or two as your first home, and then later on get your significant other. Y'all gonna have kids. We gonna add on to it later. And I said this like on a news interview, like your starter home can become your forever home because you've added on to it over 30 years. Instead of having a mortgage for 30 years, you pay off the first stage of your home build out in the first 5-10 years, and then 5-10 years later you add another wing or another story, and 5-10 years later you add a pool and a garage and this and that, like however you do that over 30 years, 40 years, it's become this. And then your kids grow up, and next you know, it's like, well, we don't mind living beside each other. Let's pick a better environment though. We don't want to live here because the climate's changed. Let's move this here and let's add on to it. But we already got an asset to start with, literally an heirloom in the form of a house that we can take with us like an antique.
Wow.
Like that's going to design to last 200 years as long as we can keep the rust off of it, which is easier on dry land than it is when it's on a ship. So it's going to last longer by default being on dry land where it's not on rainwater on salt water versus just rainwater. As long as you protect it and keep the metal protected, it's going to last even longer than it would just by default. But now that it's not on salt water, you're super good. You put the right coverings on, etc. You're super good. So now this is something that's being passed on 3, 4, 5 generations. It was paid off in the first generation.
Wow, man. So, I'm right now, you know what I'm saying? I'm invested in Designerville with my bro. You know what I'm saying?
Early in it.
For sure. So can you tell the people how they can become investors in your dream, your mission, and what would it mean for the hood for real? Like, I mean, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, let's be real. What would it mean for the hood to be like, okay, I can go get a starter house for $10,000 or something smaller, you know what I mean, to start off rather than, a mortgage that's going to cost them more than it's going to help.
Absolutely. So what was the first question? That's the first question.
So how can they invest?
How can they invest? So you can invest on Wonder Fund. It's a platform. It's a Midwest crowdfunding platform. This is the SEC regulated crowdfund that we're doing. So this isn't just like a susu or no fly by night, no flower, nothing like that. You send it to my Cash App. This is a crowdfund on a platform called Wonder Fund. WUNDERFUND.co/design to build, the word to build, and we can share that. I'm hopefully you can share that.
Oh, yeah.
And then also, we're definitely looking to start to build the team out, increase, who's involved, because the more work we get, the greater the capacity, the more we expand into other areas, etc. So, we're definitely looking to bring in new talent. And you can also look to invest in the form of buying a property. If you're interested in buying something, if you wanted to build something, you have land.
He just checking and said that me and him need to go half on one.
It's straight up.
I got you, bro. Let's do it.
Let's get it. And that's what I'm saying. That's what the people ask, like, oh, are you all out here just doing the development work, yourselves? I'm like, no, we're starting out fabricating for clients. So people come and say, hey, I want to build a concession stand here, or, I want to build a food stand, or I want to build, a 4-unit, student housing joint not far outside of, CSU's campus. You know what I'm saying? Like things like that, where it's like, okay, cool, we can work with you in that. And then as we get enough capacity, we'll look at doing our own development projects, because we now have the revenue, just like Apple started out doing, computers and MP3 players, and now they're getting into making electric cars because they have the money to do it.
Right.
In the same vein, we'll explore other types of building approaches. We'll look at community land trust, cross-laminated timber and ICFs and things like that. And we'll just not be focused on cargo texture, but any type of modular off-site building that, we deem the most efficient at any given time, the most, effective, so on and so forth. So this is just the start to get our foot in the door with something. Cargo texture seeming to me being the most accessible. And a lot of people are like, oh, why containers? There's other things that, it's pros and cons for all this stuff. But why containers? And it's like, it's there, it's available, it's cool. And we want people with these storms that are coming. That's the other thing we make clear. They're starting to create new categories for the storms that are coming. F6, they're adding an F6 rating for the windstorms, whether tornadoes or hurricanes, because the storms are getting outside of the range as far as F5 being the highest rating for a storm, to really encapsulate the power of these storms. So like the stuff we're building with, as the storms are getting more powerful, the floods are being, more like higher water, the sea level rising, all this stuff, the glaciers melting. With all that, the stick frame stuff that they're building, which is the majority of how things are built in this country, they're doing 2x3s instead of 2x4s now. They're like basically clipping off of a coin until it's a stub and a nub, and there's no more real value left in that coin, because they got to try to, cut a little bit more here and cut a little bit more here there. And we see these videos of like storms coming through and just demolishing communities, because it's all about, well, it costs too much. I just talked to somebody today, and they was like $150 for your 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 720 square feet. Like, you charging that much for 720 square feet? I'm like, waterproof, fireproof, windproof, and bulletproof. And he's like, oh yeah, those amenities. I'm like, plus it's completely finished with material that is the same quality. It's meant to be up to par, is the greatest premium, greatest quality, to have the longest lifespan, to stay in lockstep with the container, so you have the least amount of maintenance. So we're not trying to win the game by having the cheapest product. We're trying to win the game by having something that's going to last and is going to endure and be something that you can look at 30, 40 years from now, like, man, I really ain't had to do no maintenance to this thing, man. Like, I paid it off at year 10 as an Airbnb. I've been adding on to it since then, like free bands for real, like, and it's still good. I'm like, we don't want something in 5-10 years. It's like, dang, man, I gotta put the siding on, man, and the plumbing pop because they put some cheap PVC in there. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like that. That's what we hear a lot in these McMansions, is they pop them up quick and everybody's worried about the price. We got to get out of that thinking we're gonna get away with getting quality and not paying, something for it, especially when that thing is in the early new stages. Like plasma TVs for 20 racks. Today they $200. Right. Somebody bought them for 20 racks as a cool factor. And it was what allowed more to get made, to where the price came down and where now they $200. Fire, so right. It's like people, we just have to change our mindset once again. Ball basketball shoes. Yeah. They were expensive because he's like, it's a short run. We're not doing tens of thousands. Right. So we got to charge $500, $600, $1,000 for them. Like, right. It's the same thing, bro.
For sure, man. So here on the Legendary People podcast, we had a thing called Butterfly Effect. Either something you said in the course of the interview, or something I found in the course of my research to be truly profound and amazing, man. Mm-hmm. Like, when I met you first, bro, you was one of the most humble, coolest dudes I've ever met, right? Now, mind you, bro, like I'm a dude that's big on spirit, big on energy. Man, I ain't never met nobody that I just hated when I first met him anyway, right? When I met you, bro, we was bros from the moment we chopped it up, bro. Like, and then when you start telling me about all the stuff you had going on, you know what I'm saying? Of course, we met at Third Perk. Go down to Third Perk Network. Hey. Third Perk the network, right? And it was like, she, you know what I'm saying? She always said, hey, have you met, you know what I mean? Yeah. Right? And I got a chance to meet you, bro. And then, like, I felt connected to your story, your mission, what you had going on. I mean, when I heard Trep House, I'm like, I got sell stock now. Though we are in the same mind frame, like we was on the same wavelength. But then to hear your story, to find out that we had similar upbringings, you know what I'm saying? Like my dad wasn't around like that, you know what I'm saying? thank God for like my grandmother, but I grew up a baby of technology. I've always been like that. I mean, like my worst Christmas ever was when I had got in trouble and my mom took everything away from me besides one item. I got to keep one item, right? Of course, I already had my computer.
Yeah.
I kept my digital camera. So from this day, if I ever take your picture, it's gonna be the best picture of you because digital cameras back in the day you couldn't see what you took. I had to be good on that one shot, right? So it's like certain things like that. It groom you into who you are later on, man. I mean, like one thing that I thought was poetry about it was like the boy who couldn't jump off the porch first is the one who's gonna save everybody who jumped off first.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like another thing was, you know what I'm saying? We have every legend on here, man, and every legend that we ever interview, man, like they would say, one of the tall tasks for an average person comes to them easy. You know what I'm saying? When you say like the ACT, man, you blew through that thing. Ethics, you blew through that thing. That's a common trait of every legend that I've had on here, man. So I want to say like you on par with that. Yeah. But the thing that I find to be so most legendary, man, is because sometimes our dreams come from out of our fears. You know what I mean? And for you to tell me the story about, you know what I'm saying, your mom having you sitting on that park bench because y'all didn't have a place to go. And then now you are putting together this thing where a kid never got to go through that no more. Absolutely. You know what I mean? Man, like Kanye, I know you're going to see this, right? Kanye, man. Yay. Respectfully, bro. When you building a city, you got to do it with my man Trap House.
I've been trying to get in touch with bro. I'm like, let's connect, because, you know, he just giving him the land and all that good stuff. Like, man, look, man, I got land. Brody's got, not rich homie, Brody's locked up right now in Atlanta on the RICO charges. Was it Thug that gave him the free land?
Some Thug who said that, yeah.
Not Slim Thug.
Not Slim Thug. Young Thug.
Young Thug, yeah. So yeah, like that type of thing where I'm like, bro, Houston, I got the container houses, bro. Like, and that's my thing is like just trying to parlay and we control the supply chain to that effect because this is where the market's going is offsite modular building. President Biden, whether you like him or not, that's what I was saying earlier. Like, I don't care who the fuck the president is. It could be Cheeto Head again, etc. People like, oh, it's gonna be bad. I'm like, I'm not getting involved in it because the fact of the matter is they're two wings to the same turkey. Like, I'm not getting involved in that, man. Like, it don't matter who has policy in place. These other groups don't care because they know whatever policy, whoever gets in office, they're going to have policy in place that they can use to their advantage. That's all I'm on. The third version of the story. What I can actually use their policy for. I'm not thinking about what the Democrats say or the Republicans say because neither one of us has put us in a better position at any point throughout our experience in this country, and they never will. People can't say that, you know, social security and all these benefits do any good for us because if it did, it would show up in the wealth metrics, but it shows in the form of enabling us to continue to be a below par in our performance and taking it by our own hands. So I'm just like, we got to step the fuck up, bro.
And that's why it's so important to go vote, and that's why I implore you to go vote for Angelina Jackson for Judge Common, please, man. And also, man, like I definitely want to say, man, it's important to go vote. We also have LaRonda Jackson coming on Monday.
I love her.
Shout out to my bro, Brandon McClain. You know what I'm saying? He came through as well. We just dropped this interview on YouTube. Please make sure you guys go over there. But, man, I also want to ask you, man, two-part question. What's next for Design to Build, and how was the expo, man?
So next for Design to Build, we going live in 2023 with like, you know, really having everything up to par with the building. It took a little bit longer.
It's that Jordan year, baby, 23.
Hey, man, listen, man, 23, man, whole year we going up, man, from the foul line, bro, just selling on them for real. But, you know, we really had to work hard because the owner of the building, you know, took a little longer to get the building rehabbed. It took, you know, it was obviously a costly experience with it being 50,000 square feet is not a small task by any stretch. So we understand, but it put us, you know, on just a delay in what we were planning on rolling out. So we've had to tell people, hey, it's taking longer than we expected. And for us as a black, you know, a group of black men, especially, people are like, man, it ain't coming, man. You ain't got the building. It's like, man, y'all don't understand. We talking about advanced manufacturing to build housing that people are going to live in. You got to dot all the I's and cross all the T's, and there's no way to avoid that. So,
elevator up, elevator down.
I like the way, stairs, bro, up and down like Wall Street homes, and you get that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? So I'm just, you know, we building, and we plan on having our first spec model ready to go by Q1 of next year, by the end of Q1 at the latest. Because again, that crowdfund is taking a little longer. We had to reformat our pitch deck. I got a 5-minute deck presentation I just got done doing, a 1-pager. Really had to find out and get the feedback. Like, we messing up on this part. Okay, we got to pivot and adjust. Like, we wanted to be a home run out the gate. but we got to learn what we learn and figure it out. So it's been some of that going on. But as we regrouped and gotten, our feedback under us, we're updating the brand, we're coming all the way completely correct in the new year, even changing up to where we have a C Corp set up out of Delaware, because everybody is like, hey, and I already got it all set up. It's already done to that effect. But just saying it to say, everybody's like, hey, we want to invest and get equity. We don't want to do a debt-based raise. Like, we want to see if we can be in for the long haul. If you become a unicorn, which we think you can, we want to benefit on that end. We don't want to just be out for 1.25 times our money, our principal. And so we're going to change the crowdfund to a convertible debt note where people have the choice between venture debt or getting, equity in the deal, that they can, opt out for the debt and convert it to equity. So that's coming down the pike, coming into the new year. And then just client projects that, we're working on that have, been delayed because we were delayed in having access to the building. Those going live, just really like turning all these things up. So it's been a long time coming, but it's like you always want it to happen sooner than it actually does. But the way it plays out, you'd be like, man, I understand why it had to go down this way. So, but even right now, bro, I'm going through a situation, being real, being completely transparent, where I need another $10,000 for this owner. He's being graceful. He's been gracious enough with us with the building. But he also had to, because he took so long. He took 6 months to get the work done from the time we put the deposit down back at the end of April to the time he had got it done and finished officially per the agreement on September 28th. It's like literally it took that 2 quarters. And I'm like, we're in a midterm election season. We're in a deepening recession. We're at the end of the fiscal year, and we're at the end of the construction season. So I'm like, and our clients' confidence has been, really, hit hard because we kept telling them, okay, we'll be ready this month. Okay, we're ready this month. Okay, we're ready this month. And after a while, it's like, okay, just let us know when you really are ready, because you sound like the little boy who cried wolf.
Right.
So the owner's been gracious enough to say, okay, you all don't have to, come in with any rent payment at the soonest until March 1st of next year. I'm going to defer because we're supposed to have to drop basically our, 5 figures for our lease payment every month. We're supposed to be dropping that yesterday, November 1st. But I ended up having a call with the owner on Monday, like, look, this is where it's put us. Confidence has been shaken from our clients. We didn't take contracts because we would have been jacked up if we didn't perform on those timelines. Our biggest client, basically, he had written in the contract, if you don't have my project done in 90 days,
you pulling out.
No, not that. You have to pay me 7% on my money every day, compounded, until you get my work done.
Oh, ouch.
I'm like, that would have literally bankrupted us. So I had to, I was talking to the team today, and guys were like, well, why haven't we signed some of these agreements? I'm like, because those were the terms. We got to be ready to go. Yeah, they about to put bread in our pocket, 6-7 figures, but they not playing because of that. So they like, nah, bro, I want my shit in 90 days, or I'm going to have to take you up top because you delaying what I got going on. Right. I got to.
Right.
To cover my ass and the cost that I got mounting as a result of you not having it here. Right. So I'm like, this is just a game. That's why you got to be ready to play that, but it got to be tight tolerances all the way around. Like in the actual buildings, but actually in the business too. So now that we're getting that lined up, owner's like, yeah, I'll give you till March, but I need my the other half of this deposit by this was on Monday. He was like, by this week. And I'm like, what's up with Friday? He was like, nah, that's not soon enough. I'm like, today's the end of business Monday, bro. And he's like, yeah, but I need you to make it soon. I'm like, what about Thursday? He's like, yeah, that sounds good. I'm like, but that's also when you were planning on having your lawyer send paperwork over anyway. But these are the realities of entrepreneurship. So I got $10,000 from one of the biggest, Black woman-owned businesses here in the city. A gift from the founder of that. Thank you so much to her. She's a queen. She's a goddess. She's a philanthropist. She's just really a community developer. And then we got support from Co-op Dayton as a cooperative, as a grant. So we got half of the money. We got $10,000. Other $10,000, I'm supposed to be calling dude tomorrow at some point saying, here, I got the other $20,000, the other half of the deposit, other half of the $40,000 deposit. Here it is. And I'm saying all this because I want people to know, like, these are the real costs that it be. Like, the cost to be the boss, like, this is what it costs to do this kind of work. There's real, like, lifts that's associated with it. And people are like, oh, why the building? You have to have somewhere to build off-site fabrication. Do off-site fabrication. It needs to be a place to do it. So we have the work, and it's like that chicken and egg. How do you balance it out perfectly to where everything syncs up, the client work and the the facility being ready to go all just coalesce. Right. And so that's where we're at. Like, we'll have a 6-month runway if we get this other $10,000. For sure. So I have some meetings tomorrow. I'm probably gonna have to call the owner and be like, look, we got 10, give me another week. Right. And then we'll have the other 10.
Right.
And he's gonna be like, okay, cool, because I like y'all. I want y'all in this building. And it's all good. Y'all done went this far with me. I already put 20 down. Seeing y'all business plans, seeing your pro forma, seeing y'all stuff, the client, projects, all that. So I'm comfortable with that. So it's just he's been working with us, but of course we still have to do business and make sure we pay him. So, we've been encouraging people to get into crowdfunding because it's gonna go up. And it's like when we look back at history and we talk about all this, because I'm cool about all of it, because I'm like, I know this comes with, of course, it's hard, it's scary, it's challenging, but it's like at the end of it, it's not my first rodeo, and it's like we done heard all the stories about people like, damn, I remember when they was there talking about this and I didn't. So
definitely hit the crowdfund up for sure. And tell about the expo before we get up out of here, man.
Yeah. So the expo, it's the Blacks in Technology Conference. Blacks in Technology is the largest networking group of Black technologists in the world. There's 19,000 members, over 19,000 members in 65 countries, in 65 chapters across 17 countries. And so they're founded in Cincinnati by Gregory Green, and he's the founder, and then the executive director is a brother named Dennis Schultz. And I met them at the Black Tech Week a couple months prior, which was hosted by Lightship Capital, which is also based out of Cincinnati. And Black Tech Week was one of the largest tech conferences, or Black tech conferences, up there with like Bitcoin and their conference. But it was originally founded in Miami, the Black Tech Week, and Lightship brought the event and moved it to Cincinnati for the first time in the 8 years since it was founded. It's always been Miami, so that was a huge thing. And the Big Brothers was there, Blacks in Technology Brothers was there, and a sister, introduced me to him. Christiana, she has an organization like Trep House called We the Plug out of San Diego, and she was like, you should throw your hat in the ring to them, and being like, and speaking and presenting it like Bitcoin. And I'm like, nah. And she was like, I'm telling you, you got it. And she introduced me to him, and it was like, so you think you ready to go up on stage and speak at a conference like this? And I'm like, I mean, yeah, I'm pretty sure I am. And they was like, okay, well, what would you be talking about? And I was like, Afrofuturism. And and this is like my closing, like this is what I'm focused on. Overarching over everything I'm focusing on, the philosophy I'm pushing is Afrofuturism. So I told them my topic would be on the topic of Afrofuturism, like the subject Afrofuturism. And they was like, what do you mean? Like, you mean like Black Panther? I'm like, precisely that, but also because most people can only relate to it in that context. Harriet Tubman was an Afrofuturist. Frederick Douglass was an Afrofuturist. Malcolm X was an Afrofuturist. Mary McLeod Bethune was an Afrofuturist. Like any Black person, is an Afrofuturist. Any Black person that can see something for us that other people are like, you're crazy. There's no way they'll ever end slavery. There's no way they'll ever let us vote. There's no way that they'll ever let us work or own businesses or do whatever. Own homes, so on and so forth, learn how to read. Somebody was like,
I never seen that nigga on a horse.
He was a fucking Afrofuturist. He changed, but he was like, but you seen one today? I'm the future. Motherfucker, like, that's really what it was.
Right.
But until we start seeing it as more than an aesthetic anomaly, that's what I talked about at the expo. Like, until we start to see it as what, like a pestle approach, pestle being political, economic, social, technical, legal, environmental, and ethical approach to living in this world as a Black person, we'll continue to base our value off our past or our current standing. We will continue to be pushed forward from the past instead of being pulled forward by our future. And if you ask any young kids, like, where do you see yourself in 3 years? If you ask most Black adults, they're gonna be like, I mean, where I'm at now? Like, what you mean? Like,
right.
What you asking? There is no context for like, no, I can see myself owning this and doing this. You might find every now and again somebody, but most of us is like, shit, trying to stay out the way and survive. Like, what you mean, bro? So we have to be Afrofuturistic in our thinking. We have to be generalist.
The biggest financial app you ever seen in your life.
You said what?
I'm gonna create the biggest financial app
Let's
you ever
go,
seen in your
bro. I
life.
just had somebody ask me to help them plan an Afrofuturist conference nationally. They want to do it in, I think, somewhere in the Carolinas, and they was like, I saw that you did the speaking thing, bro. I met you in North Carolina at this other event. They was at the Boyce Watkins thing. They was at his thing in North Carolina, and they was like, bro, nobody there was talking about Afrofuturism, bro. He's like, nobody really got what it was besides the context of Black Panther.
Right.
Like, so I'm like, yeah, we got to change that because right now we do not define our future. Somebody else is telling us we'll have a net worth of $0 by 2053.
I remember we was talking about
somebody else telling us what we'll be worth. We don't have any input on that, apparently. They're telling us what we will be worth by 2053. How is that possible unless they have already orchestrated and set our future into motion? They already are saying that we know where you're going because we set it into place. You'll be worth $0 by 2053.
Niggas waiting to put you in checkmate.
And if you're in a capitalistic society, how do you have any value if your entire cultural group is worth $0? It's already dismally low but now it's $0. How do you exist as a cultural group? But they're basically saying like you don't exist or have value to us anymore because automation will be fully ramped up.
Oh yeah.
They won't have a need for that lower caste anymore. They won't have the lower. It's not necessary. We have people to serve, to flip burgers and do this stuff and do the
Yeah, we
things
got a robot to do that.
We got all that. It's cool. Musk and them already trying to do it with Tesla. He's already starting to try to build humanoid robots. They're already on that, bro. So it's up, bro. We better quit playing around like it's a game.
For sure, man. And with that, bro, we're gonna leave out, man. Get the people your social media. How can they get in contact with you? How can they be involved with the mission, the movement, all that, man?
For sure. So they can get in touch on social media, KÉMO, KEMO.OMEK on Instagram. You can look me up on LinkedIn, KÉMO Akutera. You can look me up on Facebook under KÉMO Akutera. I mean, I'm kind of, I don't dabble in Twitter for real, but, you know, you can email me at KÉMO@trephouse.co or designtobuild.com. People can call me. I'm going to give y'all my Google voice number. I haven't blown my phone up playing phone tag, man. 937-234-7010. I'll share my pitch deck, you know, if people want that, you know, if they want to see the 5-minute presentation pre-recorded on Loom. Like I got all that kind of stuff. I got the whole assets I can send over, the deck, 1-pager, pro forma, business plan. You know, we just making sure we ready when people ask, like, you got that? Yep. You got that? Yep. You got that? Yep.
Wait, is it designtobuild.com?
I'm sorry, DTB firm.
Oh, DTB. There you go. DTB.
Thank you, brother.
Firm.
I'm over here just saying it like it is, designtobuild.com.
There you go. So
Yep, DTBfirm.com. Thank you,
no
brother.
problem. Got you.
So yeah, we're gonna get into next time. You know, one of these days.
Bro, you definitely got to come back for
this
for the anticipation
club.
of the launch, everything like that. Oh, Sam,
yeah.
we got
That was just an investment club book about a group out of FAMU. My homeboy had put me on with. They were able to go from being college students at FAMU in '98. They wrote the book in 2008, 10 years after they founded the club. They're one of the most successful investment clubs in history, in United States history, because they were able to take $100 a month minimum, you know, they were each putting away every month, this broke college student struggling to do that in 98 to by 2008 when they wrote the book having $22 million of assets under management.
That's hard, man. 'Cause me and my hedge fund, Seneca Fund Investment Group, bro, we actually do $100 a month, and we are going into our second year when it comes to, you know what I'm saying, inception, man. So,
and
man,
outside the investment club, we got $63,000, $64,000 in it. You know, there's some contention because I've had so much money in other things. People are like, bro, you kind of behind, like 50% behind. But, you know, it's like we figured it out. But
it happens to the best of us, man.
But I'm like, but
I got to pay my hedge fund so I leave here.
See what I'm saying?
Bro, for coming in, man.
Honest, bro.
You are unequivocally a legend, man. Continue to walk in your purpose,
Gotta
man.
be to see it, gotta show it to know it, bro.
For sure. That's hard, bro. Don't forget to vote for Angelina Jackson. Commercial.
Angelina has the perfect mix of experience and temperament to serve as a judge in the Common Pleas Court.
She's someone that's for all people, and that's what we need.
I think Angelina would be a great judge because she has the temperament, she has the experience, and she loves this community.
She is very experienced. She has a variety of background experiences that I believe really allow her to be not just an attorney, but a true advocate. That's something that the system is desperately missing.
When I think about the Common Pleas Court and its role in my children's future, that court has an opportunity to pursue justice.
And that's why it's really, really important to have judges who represent the diversity of the community.
Make the right choice. Vote for Angelina Jackson for judge.